We're actually going to compliment related to their reference here.
Agreed.
So if y'all do want, we've got the little sandwiches back there for you to snack on.
Thank
maybe
you.
during the executive session or something, so you can. That does not mean you're supposed to go till 9 o'clock at night.
No, we're not. We're gonna go fast.
Okay with me.
Sir?
Yeah,
Executive session should go more than 5 minutes.
teaching us.
Well, then you have a long time to eat.
I know, I'm not going to rest until
But then
10 minutes to 6.
after.
Are we ready?
I've got the live stream, but yes.
All right.
About that.
All right. We're going to call this executive session meeting to order at 5 p.m. See here. And we're going to go into executive session. City Council will convene in closed session pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code for one or more of the following authorized reasons. Closed session pursuant to Section 551.072 Texas Government Code to consider the purchase of approximately 6.65 acres of real property for public right-of-way. It is 5:01.
Would you do me one favor? Would
Yes.
you acknowledge that there is a quorum here?
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that on.
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
And I'd like to acknowledge that we have a quorum in order to meet.
Thank you.
We have a roll call yet?
All right.
Well, we've already been doing that after we come back from executive session, so thank you.
Okie dokie. Let's go and get this
Live
done.
stream will be still on, and he's, he is.
Just peeked his head in.
Yeah, he's in his He's here.
And he's excited to see you too.
No, because then it's all public.
There's no cushion seats.
How are you doing this evening?
Well, yes, is that straight on Arizona?
Mhm.
sign's still not done.
I drove out there yesterday and yes, I noticed that. I haven't called him. Asked the question, which I made you, hey, what are you doing today? He told me, that does, and I said,
Yep, I haven't called him.
he'll call me.
Yeah. At 1 in the morning.
Yeah. But there, 6:15. Your mother's got to go in here. Good morning, sir. So, let's see what you're down up and ask you, culprit. Some sort of extra city, and I would ask you if you were trying to culprit or something. Yeah, that was it. I put the 99 happy with the smash.
I believe so. I haven't heard anything negative from him. We talked about lessons learned, the things we can do better next time, i.e. parking. I think some parking marshals. maybe having fluorescent pumpkins or streamers attached to them. And
I was kind of surprised when that was up there. Something on the agenda.
talking about the advisory board.
nieces, meeting guys at her middle school, Little Mountain. My son's a coach there.
Oh, cool.
It's cooler in here.
Yeah, that wonderful cold front.
I got 2.5 inches of rain. I ran into it on Friday night coming in from San Antonio, the storm, and then we ended up with 2.5. So Bandera got a little rain.
Yeah,
That's pretty
we
happy.
got rain in my house. The puppy
Make those.
decided he wanted to play all night in the rain.
I'm sorry, I've been running back and forth. I'll have to see if
Just the one that
anybody's.
shows the terms.
Well, it's online, but yeah, I'll have to just look at it right quick before we start. Oh, we haven't started yet. We don't start till 6 o'clock.
No, we got 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Okay, well, I'll do this. Regular meeting, I'm sorry.
Truckload of aggressive research monkeys escaped after truck crash in Mississippi.
That used to happen here.
What ball team was that?
That happened in Jasper County.
From,
I used to be the district attorney over there.
So-
Over that particular stretch.
yeah, it says the truck was hauling monkeys from Tulane in New Orleans, flipped on Mississippi Highway, freeing.
117 near Heidelberg.
Yep.
No kidding. And you were the DA over there?
I was the DA over there.
Where is that in Mississippi?
It is, well, I had 4 counties. So I had Simpson, Covington, Smith, and Jasper. And Jasper is north of Laurel.
Where is it? Is it south?
Yes.
like down there-
South Central.
Biloxi or Jackson?
It's north, it's south of Biloxi, north of Hattiesburg.
Okay.
I lived in Oxford.
You lived in Ole Miss?
Uh-huh.
I was where I went to law school.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Oxford's a cool town.
And what'd you do at Oxford?
I had a job for a distributor when I got out of, because I got a, what?
Oh, she's laughing.
This is what, I had a job.
Yeah, they sent me there, and I could have lived in. Yeah, it was interesting.
Probably still in line.
Now, what years were you there?
89 and 90.
I'm gonna tell you, if you're gonna live in Mississippi, the place to live is Oxford on that. Those are like, heaven in Oxford. Eli Manning just sold his house there.
Well, the lawyer writer guy, that, what's his name?
Christian.
Yeah, he had that big yellow house out there on the road to Batesville.
Highway 6.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you that he's not a friend of mine, but he's a buddy of my wife's.
Okay.
My wife knows him.
Is that why he's not a friend of yours?
Yeah, no, not like that. So,
Okay.
Say it again for live stream, a little louder.
but anyway, she actually knows John Grisham. In fact, she took care of Governor Musgrove's father-in-law and mother-in-law, and that's how she knows it.
He built that huge house
Yeah.
right there
That's called
going, yeah. It was cool.
and he just opened up the law. He had a law library there at the University of Mississippi at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
He went opened up in 2011.
Wow.
I'll have to tell you off the air. I'll tell you
So
something funny.
the history in Oxford was awesome. And I got into Faulkner.
Oh yeah, William Faulkner. His.
Yeah.
Of course, John Grisham now lives in Charlottesville, Virginia, and that's where William Faulkner's kids have moved off to. Not Mississippi, Charlottesville.
Huh.
But the history that you can still go to the Lyceum and see the gunshots from the Civil War.
Yeah. Well, they have that home tour
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
on those pre-Civil War houses. That was
Yes.
amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But Faulkner had a quote. His wife loved opera.
Oh yeah.
and the German opera, that guy Wagner,
Yeah.
he hated it.
Yeah.
And he said it sounded like an orphanage burning down. It's my favorite quote of his. It always made me laugh. He was ornery, and I like that.
He was, Will Faulkner was just.
Never heard that on one of your song
amazing
things.
writer. He really was.
He was an amazing guy, and he worked at the post office,
Yeah, he did.
and he got fired
He did.
because he said he refused to be at the beck and call of every with a 2-cent stamp. He was a great guy. Yeah, he got fired at the post office.
Arnie, any opportunity to see if HEB might talk to us? On the park?
I tried to communicate with them about 2 or 3 things. The one on what you're talking about is getting more coming through the foundation, not their community involvement, but they also give to
I live south,
counties.
out in the country.
Or
Huh? No, there was when I was there, I'm sure it's all built up now, but just a little bit south of town, it wasn't really even a community. There's just this lady rented a house to me, and I lived next door to the boss, Eileen and Freddie Boss, and they had a rent house, and that's where I lived. And then there was a radio control flying field right there by
Can we
us.
get a photo of you too, Jason?
Yeah, and there was a guy that, what was his name? Wallace Lowe. He was he was retired when I met him, but he had flying service, crop dusters.
Crop dusting is pretty big over there.
Yeah, in the sugar ditch.
Trump was at.
I learned what that was.
Council representative,
Yeah.
that's the title of the photo.
He got the
Yeah, it was interesting.
Secretary of War. He was in 10 feet of him. See, walking on to the thing. Yeah, he was on the George Washington. That's how close he was to him. Because it was awesome.
Oh, here it is.
Right,
Am I funny?
right.
What's your name? Are you David?
And my landlord, her and her husband, they take me fishing at that big Granada.
The microphone down.
What's a lake?
Oh, yeah. He wasn't doing
Grenada.
none of yours, Joe did.
No, it's
All right, go right ahead.
Grenada. And
Yeah.
and it was, they treated me like family, and it was fun.
And you probably both seriously.
Oh, well, he found out his next duty assignment. He gets to stay in
Yeah,
Japan.
from the river.
He's going to
Yeah.
be on a minesweeper.
I don't know, was Granada that way?
They're made of wooden hull.
Was
and
it in Oxbow
fiberglass
Lake?
body.
No, it's
And so he gets to go
Right,
to the
it's
southern
down there.
tip of Japan to Sasebo. It's like, oh, very good. That just means I got to come and visit you again.
I think you're right.
Well, what's funny is, so he'll move down there in May. Well, the
Yeah,
following
and I
April, he
still
wants
talk
move
to
down. Mom has to
talk to
go
Miss
there.
Boss every once in a while,
Let's
checking
have
on
them.
them. She's gotten old,
The
but
only thing is this long
Nice
travel
lady.
there.
good
It's-
people.
The only airport close enough to him is Nagasaki.
Now, are
And
you
then
from
it's an hour
Mississippi?
drive to Sasebo.
And
It's
where?
like, oh, very good.
Linden, where's that?
No, he's excited. Yeah, he's excited. And all
Okay.
the minesweepers that are there are scheduled to be decommissioned in 2027. So that means then he'll come stateside. Yeah, well, he'll be due for his,
Yeah.
his shore duty then, so.
They just,
And, I mean, he can turn around and put in for them to
Yeah.
come into college for his masters, or he said that he likes being an instructor at OCS.
So remember
Like,
Sunday,
oh, very good.
in the middle there.
oh, wow, way down there.
No,
Yeah.
no, not for a surface warfare officer.
So how'd you get to Texas?
Nope.
How did you get to Texas?
Yeah, no.
At Permian?
He was like, that was so much fun.
Oh, wow.
And after they were done
The whole
talking,
deal.
he was with his captain and his command chief, and his captain's like, "Follow me." So they followed the 4-star and 3-star out the room. And he's like, we got ahead of the crowd and everything. So I went and got Subway, got something to eat. He goes, my buddies got back to the ship and they go, how'd you get here back so fast? It was Subway. He goes, Captain said follow him.
Oh,
Exactly. He followed orders.
well, cool. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's out there. You can. Yep, agreed. Oh, we got 10 minutes.
That came up over there. It's playing on the internet. You guys watching, that's the camera you're looking for.
You telling us or asking us?
No, I'm telling you.
Okay.
You don't have to do that unless you're trying to stay until when the item is.
She got all the complaint.
Probably.
Did you hand that to Phil? Phil, here's some suggestions I have for the development agreement. Either one of you can read it. The line should get you there. So your name is Matilda? No. Candace?
Tell him.
Susan?
Come on. He's gonna keep guessing, and they're just gonna get weird.
Yeah, Robert.
She has a cousin named Robert.
You have a cousin named Robert? Is he as nice as I am? I'm a little strange. You ever meet these strange people? No.
So you're,
No.
Bob,
Who's old?
you're saying insert this where you say insert.
Well, yeah, at the top. Yeah, put that at the top. And I'm getting rid of anything that's, well, we can't discuss it. You can read it. What's your favorite toy? Is it a doll? Is it? What kind of doll is it? You're not sure? I have three daughters. So all I have is no boys. I'm very
Because we're gonna start.
you got any Barbies? Some of those.
How many Barbies do you have?
You have a Barbie?
I don't know if we have anybody here that's, hi, y'all come have supper with us? Excellent. Did
Yes, they're
Dad,
eating my chips.
did you get him a cookie? Can I have a cookie?
Probably a line.
Okay, okay. I was gonna get one, so it's okay.
It was her birthday yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
She has a recipe. Come on.
That's awesome.
You can sit in your dad's lap and ride.
So this goes there as an interview program. But you want to let that
That's right.
Thank you.
Can you tell me your name?
She doesn't have a wife.
That's fine.
Dinah?
You can talk. He knows some religious songs. He could sing a religious song.
That's good.
Well-
Both D's. Looks like old wood brothers.
No, I don't know. No, don't know any of that.
You don't know any of those?
The D. All of my girls are starting with T.
Take that with you.
Don't forget your car.
You see the current historic landmark commission and the planning zoning. Let's go.
So what's the point? We know who's on there. I know who's on there.
Also have these requests for power to commission. This? I don't. And when their terms end, well, what I talked to them about is you gotta make sure you don't estimate the experience when you do one of those boards.
Music session.
He's a cover band.
Days in, or next
I don't do cover.
day. Things make
Because if you ain't writing what you're singing, it's just karaoke.
we can't afford to have clear about that.
No, I'm not.
Priscilla?
To each his own.
Priscilla.
Some suggestions.
Did something else?
Yeah, Bob,
Priscilla.
for about
Another one?
boards and commissions.
Priscilla.
His suggestions.
Did you come look at this right
This is
quick?
Bob's suggestions.
Why does she need to look at this right?
Because she drafted it.
Who?
Priscilla, she had something to do with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the membership. And I was like, well, she knows who's on
I want you
there.
to read this.
I'm sorry. Uh-oh.
I wrote that in the intro.
So this would include that nobody who rents a home
Uh-oh.
can be on the airport environment.
No, I'm gonna, I'll do it up here. This is part of this development agreement. I put that,
Yeah?
I put that, no, I don't want you to do anything. I'm just seeing what your thoughts are. I was thinking about putting that in there, follow the lines, and you'll see what I was talking about.
Oh, wow.
How do you prove this?
Right, traveling around. That'd be fun.
Follow the lines.
But it's kind of something like, I went through them when I was a kid, like, 11, 12 years old.
Right?
Well,
My uncle's
Yeah.
buried out in Toya. If you've ever heard of Toya,
just about 4 cents.
my uncle's buried out there in the middle of nowhere. He's buried out there in the middle of nowhere. He ran the cotton gin in Tynosa for years.
I would
And
put
then he
2
had a
acres, I
chemical
would put
station
a
in Toya. And he passed out there with cancer. He's buried out there somewhere.
Yeah.
We got lost. The family car got
Yes,
lost going to the
yes.
cemetery out in the middle of his church. Yeah, I need to go back one day and find him. He loved West Texas.
Serve on B. What is a B? Board of Commissions. Who is this from?
I know that.
Well, they gotta have
I'm gonna
grass.
be asking
So
them.
Travis, I said, don't you like grass? Because he grew up outside Fort Worth, you know, and he was like, no. He said, there's, and it is pretty, but I still have to have grass.
Built-in irrigation.
It's grown up now some.
One's just a comment to myself. One's a comment to myself because if you put in trees, they're gonna have maintenance, lots of maintenance. You want it. On the bottom, you can see I took out everything to do. I took out anything to do with incentives. Anyway,
Fast mustard.
Bob,
but thank you.
So we gotta do.
okay, 6 o'clock.
Now you'll have to sign.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to reconvene back in open session at 6 p.m. Per the advice of the attorney, I am to say no action to be taken off of the executive session.
Well, that comes later.
Well,
Sorry. Now you're doing roll call.
all right, gonna do roll call now. Sheena Martinez, District 1.
Houston Marchman, District 2.
Phil King, District 3.
David Mers Jr. for District 4.
Robert Lee, District 5.
All right, Mayor is absent. And so I'll stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And please remain standing for invocation. Phil?
Nobody came in yet, right?
Nope.
No, I haven't seen him. Sorry.
You guys get to hear a prayer from me, so that means God listens to even us sinners. Dear God, thank you for the blessings you've given us citizens of this great country, this great state, this community. Look over us as we try to guide ourselves forward. Look over this council as we try to guide decisions that will affect our citizens. In God's name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
All righty. All right, we're going to open it up to citizens' comments. Any citizen can come forward and speak. Please speak into the microphone clearly. State your name, your address, and we got 3 minutes. So anyone up for citizens' comments? No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Samantha Mers, 148 Village Path. Good evening. Just wanted to speak really briefly on an agenda item that's set for later in this meeting. I saw on the agenda that y'all have an item related to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan revisions. And I wanted to encourage council to please consider the addition of the city-owned property 134 Village Path to that master plan. I feel it could be a great place for the local kids and their parents to meet up and play. Even if it's something as simple as a few trees and benches, I think having that space would be a benefit to the neighborhood, and ask that you please consider including it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Citizens' comments? I do have one from citizens in my neighborhood. Says, we are Dan and Cindy Maloney, home of 204 River Bluff, Castroville, Texas. Until Cindy's health recently caused us to step down. We served on the Historic Landmark Commission from 2019 until about a month ago. First as alternates and then as regular full committee members. We are still very interested in our community and watch the council meetings and HLC meetings on YouTube. There were items discussed at City Council meeting October 14th that concerned us very much. While moving the date to install HLC board members from September to June seems logical to us, we are very much against reducing the number of HLC regular full committee members from 7 to 5 and reestablishing the Design Review Board. Reasons for our concerns. Design Review Board and HLC still have too many areas that overlap, just as they did in 2017 when the Design Review Board was dissolved. Likewise, during that period of time when it is very difficult to fully fill boards. It seems unnecessary and redundant to reestablish the Design Review Board. The sitting HLC has been through many hours of training together, learning the requirements that must be met for the state of Texas, as well as the city of Castroville. HLC's purview recently increased, and having 7 members is an advantage. The current members are from several areas of town, which helps give a good balance, as well as supply the committee with eyes on most of Castroville. The sitting HLC works very well together. Each member brings their own unique abilities, life experiences, and insights, which are shared and received in good-hearted spirit. So many of the items brought before the HLC are time sensitive. Having 7 members rather than 5 members, a huge difference whether or not a quorum can be met to determine items in a timely manner. Thank you so much for your consideration in this manner, Dan and Cindy Maloney. Any other citizens' comments? Okay, with that, we'll go to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, carries. All right, public hearing. There's going to be a public hearing for zoning change request 702 Paris, the Moy Center. I was informed that this is just going to be the public hearing, but no presentations until next month.
Yeah, so let me clarify. When we published a notice, the date, we have to count and do the whole math to make sure that we've got the right number of days, and we were off. So we aren't technically meeting what the required amount of time between the public notice that was in the paper and tonight. So but we had already issued that notice, so we wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to speak if they made the time to come out and speak. But the fact of the matter is we're going to have to republish, which we've already done, for the November 19th meeting. So that'll be the meeting where we hold the official public hearing and we take action by council, or if council does take action that night.
Okay. So is there anybody here that wants to say anything regarding the public hearing for the zone change request for 702 Paris, Moy Center?
Deborah, because this is an unofficial public hearing, you still have to timestamp it or not?
Yes.
Okay.
You open
So
it.
open it at 6:07. All right. Anybody?
Good evening. My name is Lance Rohde. I'm a member of the steering committee for the Blessed Father Moy School. We purchased the property from the Congregation of the Divine Providence several months ago, and with our intent to open a private Catholic school on the property to recognize the history of the property, of the work the sisters have done there, and to return it to a place of learning as it was in the past. And so we're here, or I am here, and I submitted the application to change the zoning so that we could open a private school on that property. Now, we had several options to decide which path we wanted to take, and so we requested it be either zone commercial central district or historic commercial, because we would be allowed to open a private school per the city's CZO. Either one of those commercial designations would allow us to open a private school in that property. And so that is what we have submitted our application to read, and we would be open to either zoning change because we would be allowed to open our school under either one of those. And so that is our intent. Our planning committee is planning to open next August. And so we ask, that this be considered, more of an urgent matter so that we can begin preparations to get the property ready for a school next year. So, and with our plan, we have a website. We've posted renderings of what our intent and what our plan is to do. We aimed it to make it look, in a fitting in with the property, with the historic nature of the property, to match the architecture of the existing buildings on the property. That is our vision for the school. And so you can go to our website, moyschool.com, and you can see those renderings, or they may be part of next month's presentation. But we certainly aim to recognize and preserve the historic nature of the property.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Samantha Mers, 148 Village Path. Just to very briefly, I just want to agree with what Lance said. I think that the requested zone change for the 702 Paris Street is something that can really benefit the Castroville community for years to come. By changing the zoning to allow a school to open on this property, Castroville can show its continued interest in investing in our children and their futures. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else for the open hearing? No? All right, we are closing it at 6:11 then. All right. Okay, so here's for the action, no action for the next item. All right, discussion and action items. First one, discussion and possible action to authorize a professional services contract with P3 and Associates to manage the city's public improvement district and tax reinvestment zones.
And, Mayor and Council, we have a representative from P3 here with us tonight, Kyle. And forgive me because I don't remember your last name, but he's going to come forward and has a presentation. So we're going to get him set up real quick. But Dan, would you mind kind of introducing the concept? Because I know the mayor's probably watching remotely, but how this came about, why we're talking about it.
So, okay, so once I became your city attorney, and I got to looking and reviewing, you've got a couple of kids out here, Black Creek and Station, I believe. And I believe you're also talking about what we do TERSs as well. In Odessa, when I was city attorney there, what we did is we used P3. They basically, everything that I even know of a PID, Public Improvement District, came from Mary Kay, because she literally came and walked me through it and really helped. And now Odessa's working on its second one out there. And so what I realized is that Castroville needed help with its PIDs and TERSs. You need help with it. And you need someone that actually represents you in doing so and protects the city and not the developer. So that's why I told the mayor and I told Scott, I think Scott had known of P3 Works at some, and maybe in a past life or something. And, but I told the mayor, I said, you know, we need to do a meeting with them. We need to talk to Mayor Petty, and because she's the founder and president of it, and at least have an idea of what they can bring to the table for Castroville. And if I remember correctly, in Odessa, we actually had the developers hate P3. Is that right, Cal?
That's correct.
If I remember correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
There's a slide.
One other thing. So a couple of things. As you recall, that we had a item on the council's agenda to approve these PID development agreements, the amendments to them, and the council made the decision to approve them pending Mayor Alexander getting the answer he needed to a legal question that he had. And that's really kind of how Dan came about that is in doing that. And I apologize. I was listening, but also doing that.
Yeah,
so
you
said
that's really how it all came about. Because I mean, as I tell the mayor, I have no problem with you signing the development agreement, but it needs to go a step further to protect the council and Castroville. Y'all need to have someone that understands PIDs in and out, that manages them. And that's what Mayor Petty, P3, y'all manage it. Y'all got a second one. I think you started in Odessa that you're about to start managing.
Well, the other thing they do, and he'll get into this, but the other thing they do is they also manage TERSs.
Yeah,
the fact of the matter is, since the city, it wasn't necessarily everybody up here, but since the city established its TERSs, that we have two. There's a downtown TERS, and then there's the TERS that was developed or established around Alsatian Oaks. We sat a TERS board, but there really hasn't been someone that's managing those TERSs, and it does take a specialized training to do that to a certain extent. And so P3 does offer those services. So I think in addition, the other thing just to be aware of, again, I'm trying to set the stage for council, make sure you know what we're doing and why. As you are probably aware, Clay Benford, who was serving as both. So you had McCall Parkhurst, who was serving as our bond counsel. So anytime we issued bonds, they were our legal representative to make sure with the state that our bonds met all the legal requirements, that they were issued the way they're supposed to be. But in addition to that, Clay Benford represented the city in our development agreement negotiations. And that was something that had been in place before I got hired. Now, since they have now resigned their services, and even prior to that, Clay Benford and I had some discussions when we made the switch to Dan Santee from Cynthia Trevino, that about that same time period, so this is it's kind of the end of the year last year, so almost a year ago, we switched from Clay Benford doing that to Dan Santee and our attorney doing that. But this is also another area, as you've already heard this Dan speak to, that the P3 really has kind of shines. They really have an ability to help us with. So,
And and I'll be the first to tell you, anyone that any attorney ever tells you they know everything, you're talking to a fool. Okay, and I'll be the first to tell you that I would much rather rely on Mary's expertise, Cal's expertise when it comes to the TERSs and the PIPs, because that goes further to protect the city, protect y'all.
with that said,
We still don't have it
and
signed.
your permission, what's that?
We still do not have them signed. If y'all didn't know that, the PIDs that we're talking about have not been signed.
Right, because again,
Yes.
the kind of the concept was if we can get P3 on, once we get an agreement with them, then they would go back, review and that's why there's a quote and an estimate in your paperwork about what that might cost. They would go back and review our past development agreements, and then they would provide an opinion, not just to the mayor, but to the council, because there's some suggested changes to the agreements. And I think just in our preliminary discussions, one of the things they've kind of told us is they probably would have, and I think this also goes back to architecture and whoever does it, right? I mean, every attorney has their own spin on it. They're going to do something a little bit different. All right. Now, Kyle, sorry.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Kyle Schaffman, representing P3 Works. Set up a lot of this. So P3 Works' primary business purpose is to assist cities, counties, management districts with the creation and administration of special districts. We have 3 offices located in North Texas, Austin, and Houston, with executive, project, and support staff located at each office. North Texas is our headquarters for operations of the firm. So why P3 Works? P3 Works is involved from start to finish and continues to provide administrative support in every project. And we focus on the education of existing and prospective residents, builders, title companies, and the general public. P3 Works really serves as an extension of the city staff, city or county staff, before, during, and after the project is completed. We focus on trying to deliver innovative and fiscally responsible solutions that are effective, accessible, and transparent. And we partner with the cities and counties to make sure that we're building sustainable infrastructure that enriches growth while ensuring accountable long-term value for the communities we are retained by and the citizens that live in those communities. So P3 Works is the largest PID administration firm in Texas with over 283 improvement areas currently being administered, representing over $2.2 billion in assessments, a large portfolio of that securing tax-exempt PID bonds. We serve as administrator for 158 public improvement districts. That's what PIDs is, for everyone here. With an additional currently 148 projects in various stages of formation. We've worked with 64 cities across Texas and interfaced with 25 counties in the creation and administration of PIDs and collection of assessments. And we've worked with numerous first-time PID issuers, and we've worked with communities ranging from small local communities of less than 5,000 residents to some of the largest municipalities in the state. So our service focus is primarily ensuring clients remain compliant with PID Act requirements, prepare annual service and assessment plan update for the governing body to consider. So just as a little side note, when you establish a PID, you have to pass, as required by statute, a service and assessment plan, which includes a 5-year service plan projection as well as the assessment roll that will be then recorded in the real property records of the county. Every year, you're required to update that service and assessment plan. So one of the things we do is update the service and assessment plan, make sure and present it to the council so that you remain in compliance with all the requirements of the PID Act. We work with the city's financial advisor and bond counsel to evaluate the risk and minimize any confusion in the transaction by leveraging mostly Mary's years of experience in PID administration. And we also work closely with the developers too. So we are representatives of the city, but we also work closely with the developers to make sure that we can gather the necessary data, map costs to evaluate and create the districts. And then after the district is established, there's quarterly financial information, developer data that are required for continuing disclosure requirements. And we provide education and support for the developers so that they can be reimbursed for eligible public infrastructure costs once the assessments have been levied. So as I mentioned, it's just representation of what on a PID project the normal city team looks like. So P3 Works serves as the PID administrator. The city also will have retained a financial advisor, bond counsel, city attorney, dissemination agent, underwriter, trustee, if you issue bonds. And then obviously we work closely with the city staff, city manager, administrator, and city secretary too, when we need to get agenda items published. So just focusing primarily on some of the things after formation of the PID and levy of assessments, what are PID administration services we offer. So we review requests for draws by the developer. This is how the developer gets reimbursed for the infrastructure costs from the assessment. So that's verifying infrastructure costs against the service assessment plan. We certify compliance with terms of the certificate of payments, and we verify appropriate release of lien and all bills paid affidavit prior to release of any payments to developers. We also maintain a database of all property within the PID, update assessment rolls and allocate assessments upon subdivision on a yearly basis, and we track the payment history. We also will interface with the county or tax assessor collector for collections, and the assessments are paid in the same manner as property taxes. We prepare delinquency reports, reconcile accounts with the trust estate, review developer quarterly disclosures to ensure accuracy with construction and ownership status, preparing of annual continuing disclosure reports, pursue and facilitate collection of delinquency via county contract, and then prepare and present the annual SAP update, including all statutory and disclosure requirements. And that's kind of very high level overview of what the PID administration services are. And so the PID administrator really is kind of like the key to the working group between the city, county team, developer team, and then all the other consultants and professional organizations that the city may be contracted with as part of the PID formation and PID administration process. And then on the TERS side, TERS administration.
Can I back up? I want to differentiate between PID and TERS. So on the PID side, just understand that just like in the case of McCall Parkhurst, when they were representing our efforts to get the development agreements established, the developers paid for that. They didn't pay them directly because they were working for us. They paid that into an escrow account. They signed an escrow agreement, and then we paid McCall Parkhurst out of that escrow account. As it happens, McCall Parkhurst donated those fees back to the city. That was at their Mr. Benford's request and at their decision. But that said, the same thing would be the case with P3. So this is where things change a little bit. So on the PID side of things, their fees are paid for by the developers through an escrow agreement for those who have PIDs. Okay. Or those who enter into development agreements with the city. We already have those escrow agreements in place So that part is covered. For TERS's, it's a little different because as the TERS is basically a function of the city. The TERS may or may not be able to pay for those services out of the TERS funds. I'm not sure. You can speak to that. But bottom line, the city would be paying for those services directly, but we'd also be benefiting from them because, as he's about to explain, their job is to keep us legal.
So TERS Administration Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone, acronym TERS stands for. So what we do on the TERS side is prepare preliminary project and finance plan, assist with creating TERS, which in creating TERS, you have to establish the TERS board, create the tax entities, usually working with the county, determine the contribution increments of what percentage of TERS revenue the city will retain versus what percentage they're going to put into the TERS fund, the terms of the zone and the boundary of the zone. So I believe we've already created the two TERS in this case. So we'll kind of skip. So you did the conducted the required public hearing and then adopted a final TERS plan. So what we do on TERS administration is assist with the annual reports to the controller's office and then provide administrative support for TERS funding obligation, including review of administrative costs required to and additional costs required to release reimbursement. And so then kind of, I think probably an important question for most of you is how is P3's contract funded? So during creation, as Scott had mentioned, we are paid out of developers escrow. So developer deposits a specific amount with the city or county. And then usually there's a requirement in the PSA that if the balance were to drop down to a specified level, it would require additional deposits by the developer. So, and then upon levy of assessments or bond issuance in a PID, P3 is paid from the levy assessments. So the annual collection costs, our administrative fees are included in the PID annual installments due each January. And so PID and TERS administration costs are paid from designated and segregated district or zone funds. So these are not paid out of the city's general fund.
To the extent, so where your TERS fund sits right now, the Alsatian Oaks TERS, there wasn't much property out there assessed. Of course, there's always a lag from when it's built to when it's assessed to when it's paid to when it actually shows up in the TERS. And just as a reminder, those TERS funds are not due to the Alsatian Oaks development. We're not required to give those funds back to the developer. We are required to give a portion of our property tax receipts and sales tax receipts back to the developer, as in addition to the impact fees in reimbursement for the improvements that were made. But the TERS last year had about $13,000 in it, so it wasn't a lot. But this year it'll receive considerably more, and I don't know the figure off the top of my head, but it's tens of thousands of dollars that will go into that TERS. The downtown TERS is in a similar boat. It had $0 in it. It was established much more recently, and it's only now, I think this last year is the first year where some of the improvements like the Castroville barbecue and some of the other improvements that have made downtown have been recognized and are actually showing up as tax proceeds to the TERS. So I'll have to get an amount as far as how much is there. But that's the only kind of caveat or concern I think I would have if I were in your shoes is, well, how much money is in there and is it sufficient to pay for your services? And the short answer is yes, it should be for both of them.
Yeah, I would.
You don't know that yet because you haven't looked.
Yeah.
I'm letting you know there is money
Yeah.
there to pay you all were you to be hired.
Okay. And then one last thing is we provide public and stakeholder resources. So we host and maintain searchable interactive website with the city or county's public assessment documents. And we'll publish those to the website after the city council. So our website provides the ability for the general public to research PID documents, look up parcel or address information. So if someone was looking to maybe purchase a home, they own a home in a PID, they can go online, see what their current assessments do, pull the recent service and assessment plan, the original service and assessment plan, and get all the assessment details from our website. We also provide all customer service support for any PID-related questions. So they can contact us via phone, emails, through our website. And so we handle any questions regarding PID assessments, how do I pay the assessment, if I want to prepay my assessment. So P3 Works handles any customer support related from residents who live in the PID or potential buyers who may be looking to move into a home that's located in the PID. And then if there are any questions,
That could have been bad.
Anybody have anything? All right, Bob.
I'll wait till they're finished. Yeah, I'd like, between yourself and Mr. Dixon, to, again, help me understand the fees that are payable. It looks like there's a one-time fee in here of $10,000. And I think it was in this particular document. I'd like to know if there's a monthly fee. And does that fee cover both the PIDs and the TERS, the $10,000 fee? And
The $10,000 fee is a look back at the existing documents.
I
So that's
understand.
what that's associated with. It is separate and apart from any fees that might be assessed for moving forward on both the PIDs and the TERSs.
okay,
And that's
well,
more about, just being candid, that's more about being able to get the mayor the answer that he's looking for and get the advice that I think both Dan and the mayor agree the council really needs to hear. So we need P3 to be read up on the situation, and it's not free. So that's what that fee is about. The fees going forward would be paid for in the manner that Kyle described out of the,
okay, so there's a monthly cost, as I understand, to maintain this contract with them, correct? I'm sorry?
there is no monthly cost.
There's no monthly fee to have you, okay.
No,
Because I know here on page 4, it talks about no general funds will be used to pay any expenses relating to the work. I'm wondering, second, why we did not go out for requests for proposals versus selecting a firm straight away. And my other question is, in here it talks about on automatic renewals after 3 years, that thing would be automatically renewed year to year. I'm absolutely against any kind of automatic renewal. Every time there's a renewal beyond the initial term, it needs to come to city council so they're aware of what they're involved in. So I'm saying council needs to see that, because, as councils change, if it's automatic, they may not realize exactly what we're involved in. But if it comes back to council, then it can be reviewed and everybody will be up to speed on what's what.
he's speaking to me, but he's really speaking to y'all. You're giving advice to your council about what you'd like to see included and not included in the contract, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That'll be a council.
Can I make a motion?
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve professional service agreement contract between the city of Castroville and P3 and Associates for management of the public improvement districts and tax reinvestment zones, and provide guidance and assistance in the preparation review of the current and future development agreements, and include the revision suggested by Councilman Lee that this doesn't automatically renew at 3 years, that it needs to be a formal renewal process.
A second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
All opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right. Next one.
Before we conclude, so Dan and Kyle will exchange documents. Now once we get that signed agreement, then we'll move forward.
All right. Next item is we're going to,
B.
yep, Discussion and possible action on the Country Village Phase 2 final plat.
And for this, I'm going to turn it over to Brianna Soto.
All right, here we go. Good evening, Council. Brianna Soto, Community Development Director. We also have the developer here and the engineer, Jack Upmore and Aaron Newman with BGI. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to also call them up here and talk to them. So this is the Country Village Estates Phase 2 final plat. As you know, the engineer is BGE. The property owners are CVC Country Lane, Jack Upmore. Y'all have already saw this preliminary plat, I think about a month ago, maybe a month and a half, so nothing's changed with it. And then it's approximately 11.978 acres. This is where it's located. It's an extension of the original Country Village Estates, the Phase 1 plat. This is the current zoning of this property. It's residential, single-family residential, and that's what it's to be. There's nothing different there. This is just a look at the final plat. I'm sure y'all have one in y'all's packet that y'all can see a little better than the one on the screen. But as you can see, it's the same final plat, it's the same as the preliminary plat that y'all saw, like I said, about a month and a half ago. Let's see, and we're gonna go through some of the requirements of the final plat. So the parkland dedication, per y'all's ordinance, it's supposed to be a fee in lieu of parkland dedication, and it's 5% of the appraised value. So I just put on there these are direct screenshots from the Medina County Appraisal District that shows that appraised value. And so they have already paid that $12,115.50. Yep. Water rights, the total is 19.584 acre feet that will be transferred over to the city. That is due before the final plat will be recorded with the city. So that's after construction of the subdivision. So they just have to provide a letter stating that they will, in fact, transfer those rights over to the city, which he has provided, which I also show right here.
Can you back up one slide?
Yeah.
This is just for comment. We've talked about this as staff, the calculation of the fee. Yeah. So just so you know, one of the things that you might want to consider in the future, it won't impact this plat, it's not going to impact Jack, but on future developments, one thing to consider is when you look at the parkland dedication fee in lieu of, for smaller developments like the Heights of Castroville, like what the Country Village Estates, there's really not enough of a development to justify putting a full-fledged park in. So it makes sense to do a fee in lieu of. I mean, many of the cities I've worked for in the past do that, especially in smaller subdivisions. But this fee calculation is based on the original appraised value. And what I would recommend that you consider is look at the final appraised value or the market value at the time of dedication. Or there's a couple other ways because as you all know, it's kind of like school districts and us. When we have gone to acquire property from a developer that we want to purchase, it's always at, and it's kind of your joke about the minus sign and the plus sign, Phil, but when you're going to buy that property, it's always at, well, what will its ultimate value be fully developed with all the infrastructure in? And that's what they want to sell the land for, even though it's still farmland and it hasn't been developed at all. We've already seen a lot of that. So that's just something to think about for a future policy decision. It's not one you can make tonight, but I just wanted to call attention to it while we're going through this. Go
Can I
ahead.
ask a question based on what you just said?
Sure.
Where does the official valuation of the property come from?
So I think Brianna just stated it.
Well,
So
I
comes
see
from
it came from the county, but that's
Right.
obviously way undervalued.
Right, but that's according to our own policy. So that's what our policy currently dictates. And what I'm recommending is that y'all consider changing that policy in the future because we're following the policy as it's written. But I would recommend that you consider changing that in the future.
It's a legal appraised value of the property.
Right.
That's maintained by the Medina County Appraisal.
Right. And
That's
you
correct.
could, again, that's another question for your attorney in the future is, well, what are our options? What can we consider, right? You can also state a fee, I believe. Like you can say, this is what parkland costs to develop. This is like an impact fee, very, very similar to that. And you can go through a similar process, I believe, to establish this is our minimum amount per acre for a fee in lieu of. Instead of letting them tell you the value, you could actually dictate the value. I'm pretty sure.
And I appreciate that, but I guess really for future discussion.
Yeah, it's future discussion.
Okay.
Just food for thought for now.
What pot of money does this money go into? Does it
It
go
goes
into
into
parks?
parkland dedication. So it does go into parks. It's not
Okay.
in the general fund. It gets segregated because it is received,
Mhm.
and that's by state law.
Mhm.
When it's received in this manner, it has to go into a
Parks.
fund specifically for parks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then so another stipulation of the final plat is a financial guarantee. Mayor did provide some comments for our planning and zoning meeting, so they did take into account that there was no expiration date on the letter of credit from the bank, so they did include that. They made that revision on their own. And then here's the assessment. Another comment that came about was that Mayor thought that it needed to include everything that was on like the fee schedule that they provided, but in our ordinances, it's very specific on what they need to include in that financial guarantee. It says erosion control, it says construction improvements for water, sewer, so it's very specific. So if that's something y'all want to look into in the future to change the language on that, that's something that y'all can do, but as of now, they are meeting all the requirements of our ordinance. And then general information. So like I said, this is going to be a single family district and it's 11.978 acres, 32 lots. It's going to maintain all our setbacks as required by our CZO. There's been no variances requested. The city engineer has reviewed and approved all the final plat and plans. And also your planning and zoning commission has recommended approval on this. So
Madam
all I
Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the final plat for the Country Village Estates Phase 2.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
Yes, I have a discussion. I wonder how this additional part of the development complies with our desire to have trails of walkability and connectivity. The other point that I wanted to make, Mr. Dixon brought up, and council has asked the Parks Board to give us some changes to the subdivision ordinance to be much less than 100. In this very same package right here, we're talking about putting a park in Country Village in order to service this development also. And so there is no development too small to have a pocket park for people. There just is not. And so we're going to rectify that. But how does it comply with our desire to have the connectivity between developments, walkability, that kind of thing?
All I can see, the connectivity, there is, as you can see, there is a step out to the north, so at least there's that roadway connectivity. Y'all don't have it in y'all's ordinances to require that connectivity. So as I said, it meets all the ordinance restrictions, but we don't have it in our ordinances that require any kind of trails, connectivity with sidewalk. I mean, it connects to the sidewalks of the existing subdivision.
I understand that. And
Yeah.
the water requirement also takes in any kind of non-housing area as far as them irrigating it.
The water, it takes in what's required by ordinance, which is 0.612 per lot. Yeah. And then actually, I just want to also talk to y'all that the Groffs, they reached out to us because they were concerned about their driveway. Well, you know, they've had a couple issues. And so they wanted to, right now it was at 20 feet. And then they wanted to increase that to 30 feet. And so we met with the developer and they very graciously, they didn't have to. It was in accordance with our ordinances, but they did make that change to allow them a 30-foot drive as they requested. And we talked to them and I think that, and we let them know that we're going to try and stay on top of the construction crews and to make sure that, you know, the trash is picked up and if they have any issues to reach out to us.
Oh, good, because that was one of my questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions? Okay, no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
Jack, thanks for bringing your development here. It'll be an asset to us.
It's dinosaurs, the last of the big lost of Castroville.
Yeah. It'll be good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
All right. Next one, discussion and possible action to adopt a development agreement policy as recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission of Castroville.
I'll go ahead and speak to this since Scott's not in right now. I'm just going to close this because I don't have a presentation for it. Okay, so let's kind of go back and look at where we started with this. So we adopted a development agreement policy, I believe, either early this year, at the end of last year. But that was also kind of tied to the UDO, and as y'all know, that didn't go through. And so we brought the development agreement policy back to City Council to see what they wanted to do, if they wanted to just rescind the development agreement policy, or if they wanted to try and revise it. Well, they left that in the hands of planning and zoning, and planning and zoning did say that they thought it was a good tool to have for development. And so, but they also thought that it needed some tweaking. And so what we did is we went through with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we had a workshop, and we pulled out what they thought was necessary for a development agreement policy, what they thought was kind of like tied to the UDO, and what they thought could just be like completely X'd out. And they decided that they wanted the development agreement policy not to be so full of regulation, but values for the city. So it has a lot of value statements. We value connectivity. Those are the kind of things, and I think it's in your packet. So, and I don't have it memorized, I'm sorry. But it's down to 2 pages. It reflects what they think the city of Castroville values. And then, of course, there's also a section to process. One thing that they did agree on is that there should be a public engagement process from the very beginning. And so once it comes through the door, we get a good set of eyes on it, that the developer has to put on a public engagement, just like Alsatian Oaks had did a couple of times. I wasn't here for that, but from what I heard, I attended one, and that was before I was hired. Mm-hmm. And they really, oh, sorry, here you go. And from what I heard, that provided a lot of good feedback from the public, and they got to get their questions answered. So that is one thing that they did want to include in the development agreement policy. So I hope y'all have had a chance to look at it a bit. Planning and zoning did review the development agreement policy as presented, and they did recommend approval on this as well.
Let's bring it up so you can see it.
Okay.
Madam Pro Tem, can I make a motion?
Yes.
I'd like a motion to approve the development agreement policy.
Okay. A second?
I'll second.
All right, discussion?
Yes, I have quite a number of suggestions for some tweaking to the words in this agreement, including removal of anything to do with incentives, and language that also would basically say, we expect you as a developer to do your best to be in compliance with our document and price your homes accordingly to cover those kinds of additions. I mean, I could go through all of my notes here, and I pass them down the table for people to look at, but my point is they can price their homes where they want to recover the cost. And I think there needs to be a little bit more impetus in there about how important it is for them to have a development that reflects on the character of their company and the legacy they leave for us, and that is attractive to, the customers that they serve and to the community. And so those are the kind of words that I would like to see folded into this. And I also had an opening statement that basically talked about the foundation of Castroville, the homes they built 150 years ago are still standing, which means quality materials, good design, attractive, blah, blah, blah. So I would not like to pass this tonight, but let council have an opportunity to make recommended adjustments to this and bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not in a super big rush to get this because there's one development agreement with Endura that's proposed that they've been chasing. It's going through P&Z. So it won't come back to you till the 19th anyway. So it's not, and they're already
past this place.
Yeah, we've already had a lot of conversation with them. So this is really intended for new developers as they come along. And who knows when we'll see the next one potentially. So I don't think there's a big rush. And if you want to take your time to look at it, that's.
I withdraw the motion. However, I recommend that Bob's recommendations go back to P&Z, just like the mayor's recommendations went to the P&Z. and get them to give some input before it comes back to us.
Sean's the winner.
So I'll withdraw my motion, and I don't think we need a motion. We just need,
Table.
Table? Oh,
Hang on, I wanted to
Okay.
discuss
Oh, I'm sorry.
before we table it.
wait,
Well, we don't need, if we
We
table
won't
this
table it,
in the
just no
next
action.
meeting.
Yeah.
no action. All right, David?
So I also had a couple comments, a few particular things, but also I think we might have gone too far the other direction. I think some of these items are too vague now. I know that there are a few here where if I were a home builder and was handed this paper, I would go in a completely different direction than Phil. I'm going to pick on Phil today.
Here comes Phil.
So, for example, on the design and building standards, it says, high quality, durable building materials. Now, to me, that means that I'm going to be building out of cinder blocks with cladding and with high levels of insulation on the inside of the building to build a higher performance home than the typical stick-built home you'll see everywhere across South Texas. I expect that when he reads that, he thinks, I want stone on the outside.
I was going with concrete.
Well, actually, we had some discussion about whether, I think that's one reason why so there was a lot of discussion. And I want to back up real quick. So I heard the recommendation that we put this in front of P&Z. And I'm just going to state this as the guidance, take it for what it's worth. I'm not trying to weigh in on policy, but in my experience watching other communities deal with this, sometimes it can feel a little bit like badminton. I don't know if anybody even still plays or knows what badminton is, but or tennis, right?
Pickleball.
And sometimes, or pickleball, right? There's a more
Too young for pickleball.
that sometimes your boards and commissions will feel like, wait a minute, we've already seen this. We gave you our opinion, and it feels like council is now telling us what our opinion should be. So I'm not saying it's not I'm not saying it's a bad idea to send it to them, but I would caution you that when you do, that you clarify what your expectations are of them, and that if you are going to seek their input, that you just be seeking their input on a council recommendation on something else. But generally, and I'm going to look at Dan. Generally, your advisory boards are advisory to the council, not the other way around. So once it goes through that advisory board and comes to you all, I would just caution you that you really probably should struggle with that policymaking part. You've heard their opinion. You gave it to them. They brought it back. Unless there's something major, like some major change that is like a real.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I guess I would like they were the ones that meet with Brianna, with the developers, and the fact that like once Bob's, some of it just wordsmithing, 6 from one, half does the other, but there is that thing about taking out incentives. And I remember when we had that big discussion when we had that joint meeting with the PNC and the whole thing about you leave incentives in or not. But I would like to get what their feedback is as far as, since they're kind of in the, so I'm not telling them to change it. None of this is, input this in there, but give us their honest feedback. What do they think about these? Because that helps us make our decisions.
My other recommendation is it may, and as much as we are challenged to do this, because it's just a challenge to get everybody in the same room, that may be an opportunity for a joint workshop where you have, because again, what happens is such a delay between when you send something to them and then they talk about it and things get lost in translation. Staff does the best we can to try and communicate what it was that you all were discussing, but maybe this is something you may want to have a joint.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I agree. And there's not a big rush on this. So
right.
I'd say maybe after the first of the year, have another joint workshop.
Yeah. And remember, that is kind of where we started. We had a joint workshop, then we put it to P&Z, then they worked on it for 2 different meetings. Now it's come to you. So maybe it's time for another.
I think that'd be great. Because if you all would have, I don't know if it's recorded now. So if you want to, you can go back and listen to the P&Z's comments, but there's a reason why they kept it very vague. They wanted those details to be established during the development agreement and not to establish those in the development agreement policy. They wanted that to be able to be a conversation. So So I think that's a great idea. a
Understanding that,
policy.
yeah,
A
understanding
workshop.
things like design standards are
Yeah.
open for interpretation. What somebody thinks is high design
Mhm.
may be very different, the developers versus ours, and honestly versus what some future council may think is high design, right? So
Yeah.
it changes. But anyway, all right.
Okay.
So I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
No, you have to withdraw.
You have anything else?
I withdraw.
No, I'll send my particular items to an
Okay.
email.
Staff will work with the mayor to see if we can't call a combined meeting at some point.
Workshop.
Pork chop.
All right.
Pork chop.
All
I
right.
heard pork chop too, but I
You
knew what
said
you said.
pork chop.
Workshop. Workshop.
All right. Next item, discussion possible action on Garcia Creek drainage project. Oh, yes.
I have your presentation, AD, and I'll bring it up.
Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening, Council. A.B. Salinas with Lochner, here to provide an update on the Garcia Creek Channel Stabilization Projects. Oh, great. Oh, there we go. Oh, this works. So to provide everybody a little bit of a background and starting from the beginning of the history on this project, we had completed a drainage master plan at the start of 2023. And in that master plan, we had identified a number of priority projects for the city. On this slide are some of the top 5 that were scored as part of that process. One of those was River Valley Drainage Improvements, which is just upstream of the Garcia Creek channel area. Another one that was identified was Village Path and the Flat Creek tributary in that area. This was a project that was subsequently addressed as part of a private development agreement. And then there was the Garcia Creek Channel Stabilization Project, followed by 2 huge projects that included storm drain and major reconstruction of the roadways. With these 2 projects, Athens Street and Naples Street storm drain improvement projects, we have submitted those to the Texas Water Development Board for consideration as part of the state flood plan, which would then allow for funding potentially through the Flood Infrastructure Fund. And so through this process, we arrived at looking at advancing the Garcia Creek Channel Stabilization Project because of the concerns of public safety and the loss of property. And so that's what we focus in on. Shortly after we had begun performing preliminary engineering associated with that project, and what we try to identify in the preliminary engineering process is, what are feasible design options, what are they going to cost, and kind of developing that approach.
It's a big one, right?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Sorry. Let me just do that. There you
All right. Viviana.
go. I'll just hit it.
Okay, there we go.
We'll go to Dana.
So we looked at 3 options as part of that report. One of them being option 1, which we consider to be the long-term solution. I think might be a typo on that slide. So option 1 is the long-term. And what's involved with that one is the stabilization of that culvert head wall. It's got about a 9-foot drop to the channel bottom. And then the channel banks on both sides. And I'll show some pictures here shortly just to reframe and refresh everybody on kind of the conditions out there. But we have about 15-foot vertical walls that are soil. So they're pretty unstable and at risk of collapsing and eroding with each of the different storm events. So we were proposing here with this is to stabilize those vertical bluffs with a channel wall system so that we can protect that, as well as provide some grade controls on the channel bottom due to the steep slopes that are going to result in increased erosion as time goes on. We did look at kind of call it an option 2, short-term repair, which is stabilizing just the outfall, still requiring basically the same limits of improvement work down to Athens Street, but stopping short of the wall system, but looking at providing extensive rock riprap on that channel bottom to help stabilize the bottom and a little bit of the sidewalls, but really the channel would still be at risk of erosion, especially on the side banks. So we consider that a short-term solution. And then option 3 was kind of just a more of a, I guess, call it a creative idea of, because the channel is so deep, you have the space, and we've done it before with another community, is you can put a box culvert into the channel bottom, kind of connect it together and construct a smaller channel on the top. But that one was more expensive than the other 2 options. So at the conclusion of that, we had recommended option 1. We presented that to council in July, and I think that was the option that was selected to move forward into final design. Next slide.
Yep.
Okay. And
Current progress?
yep, right. So following that council, we started working on preparing the final design proposal based on that option 1. And then at the request of city staff and council, we went out there on early October. We conducted a channel walkthrough with Councilmember King and city staff. We reviewed the project scope, and part of the concerns was about the easement needs and discussing the limits, limiting the possibility of limiting the scope of the work just to the head wall erosion area. So we took a look at that. We took some photos. We went back into the office, and I asked a couple of our staff members to perform an independent technical review. And so one of them is a professional geomorphologist, a PhD that specializes in stream restoration type work. And then one of our most senior engineers that is also experienced in this kind of flood control work. And we kind of scratched our heads and kind of looked around and kind of tried to find some other type of solution, or what would be the impacts of doing just a stabilization of the head wall. I think we all arrived at basically still recommending option 1. Essentially, I think as we progress through final design, there's opportunities to refine the design, because what we have is just a 30%. But we do think that stabilization needs to occur from the limits of Geneva Street down to Athens Street, due to the steep slopes of the channel bottom, due to the embankment failures, and the risk of continued erosion. And so
Do you have pictures from that day that we walked?
I have some pictures, and it was hard to kind of show some of. I wish I had exact photos of different scenarios, but what I did pull was an aerial image, and I have this on the next slide if you want to pull that. I think it's the next slide. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you've got some. Sorry, there is some on slides.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so now we got to go back a little bit now visually to try to see what we're talking about. Is so try to draw in where roughly the banks were in February of 2013, and then comparing it to March 2022.
Mm-hmm.
It was a challenge to, I think, really delineate this definitively at an aerial level because of the tree canopy, trying to find a good image that shows that loss. But the yellow line is generally representing where we saw the bank roughly back in 2013, so roughly 10 years ago, this snapshot in time is about a 10-year window. And then we looked at 2022, we drew on that northern bank a white line that kind of represented the new top of bank in the channel. We measured that, we saw about what looks to be about 20 feet of change over that time period. Again, this is approximate, but it does show that erosion is occurring. Those red arrows represent the alignment of the pipes that are underneath Geneva Street, and they are pointed in the direction of that bank. And so, as you would expect, there is erosion that's occurring in that area. And if we go to the next slide.
I was just going to mention this while we're here. One of the questions that kind of I think everybody that's looked at this has had, and it's a historical conundrum, if you will, is why are they perpendicular to the road when you can see pretty clearly that the drainage path is at a diagonal, and they could have been installed at a diagonal, they just weren't, and I don't know why they weren't. I wasn't here during that time period, but it is what it is. We're dealing with what we have, and so that's one of the things that I think everybody has looked at and said, okay, why did we do it that way? But it is what it is. So there's some pictures.
Yes.
And again, you were talking about from February of 13 to 22, but I've only been here since 21. And I can tell you that since 21, when we walked it and to now, it has significant. Some of the areas like the bottom right picture, that was, it looked like it was at risk. It wasn't, there was a portion of it that was hanging out, like just the corner was hanging. It's completely washed out and the whole thing has collapsed in just 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So there's been pretty significant erosion lately. I don't really understand that because we haven't had a lot of rain. Like since I've been here, we had rain that first year, but we really have been in a pretty significant drought. So it's interesting that we're seeing, at least for me, because I don't understand this stuff, that there's this much erosion in such a short period of time, especially when there had been a whole hell of a lot of rain compared to 10 years prior.
Right.
Anyway.
It's evolving. And on the top left is the photo of that Geneva Street culvert. That's a 9-foot drop. And then on the bottom left.
And to be clear, you can stand underneath that overhang.
Mm-hmm.
That's a.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for scale, those pipes are almost my height. They're pretty big. So it's hard to appreciate that in the image. And then on the bottom left is an image of a head cutting that's occurring in the channel, and that's because it's really steep in this area, and it's continuing to migrate and move. And so I think we, from some photos that we had from even last year to now, you start to see a little bit of like that erosion widening and progressing further up, and it's going to continue to do that until it reaches an equilibrium. And then these middle photos don't really, I think, do the justice that I would like to communicate with you all today. But there's these vertical banks, and towards on the top middle image to the kind of the background of that vertical bluff, that was overhanging. I think at the start of the project, we went back out there recently, and all of that had sloughed off or sheared off. So, I think that's going to continue to happen. And so going to the next slide, what we're here to ask today is, based off of the review of the conditions that we observed and based off of, dialogue internally with some of our other professionals, we still arrive at the recommendation of option 1 that we had in the report, and which includes the stabilization of those head walls and culverts and channel banks. This is going to be a solution that reduces that risk for future erosion, reducing that maintenance risk, the public safety component, and preservation of property. So I think with that, basically, we're looking for authorization to proceed with the final design of option 1. And I guess at this point, I'll open up to questions and discussion.
Before we ask questions, there's a couple of things I want to address with council, just so you're aware. So we borrowed $1.2 million in drainage funds to be utilized for, no, we borrowed more than that. 1.5, because we had a couple $100,000 extra, if you want to think about it. And that's how we're paying for some of the work down by Athens on the other side, on the north side of the city. I'm sorry, on the south side of the city. But your project estimate, just looking for a confirmation, it's still in that $1.2 million range?
Yes.
And is that all in, including soft costs, or is that the construction?
It included soft costs as well. Okay.
So the good news is, if you want to do the whole project, you have issued enough debt to do the whole project. But one thing that I've discussed with Avi, and I've discussed with the mayor a little bit, and with Councilman King, is another option that you could do if you just didn't want to do the entire project, is you could do it in phases and do phase. We could break it down to phase 1, 2, 3, and try to get state funding for the remainder of it. Again, the challenges are those that have already been identified by AB. Like, 1, you don't know that funding is going to come, and 2, what will happen between now and whenever that day arrives that you might be able to fix it. So those are just inherent risks. But with that, questions?
I have a quick one. So if we were to approve tonight, when can you get started? And then how long would it take you to complete?
Well, we would get started immediately at execution.
That would be with engineering. We think in terms of like the work.
Yeah,
Not that that isn't work.
Groundbreaking,
yeah,
Yeah,
I want to see
actually-
some concrete trucks.
ripping out the old,
Right,
putting
right.
in the new.
Sorry,
Okay.
Amy.
Okay.
You're important and what you do is very important, but
I hear you.
Well, no, because this comes into play because then him and I we will have to make sure that all the people in that area know,
Right.
hey, you're only going to have one way to get in and out for a while.
No.
Yeah, that-
The bridge.
yeah, the bridge will stay open. I don't think it'll have to be closed.
Roughly, I would budget 12 months to start turning dirt. And so what that includes, I think it's 6 or 8 months in design. In tandem is the easement acquisition process that's occurring. That is a big variable of how long that can take. But we would plan to start that at the 90% design phase. And then we would allow some time for bidding, and we've got to execute the contracts with the contractor. So I think that would be a realistic timeframe.
There's essentially 3 owners or 4 owners that we have to reach out to, Brianna. How many owners is it for? Yeah, and we've made contact with one.
Back up the slide.
We contacted the other 3, but we haven't really been pushing that until we got this final decision.
One more.
Here. That one?
Yeah, there's 4.
You know, Amy has, and I have a little disagreement in some respects, but for instance, you can see where it's eroded there quite a bit, that 20 feet maximum. I think that needs to be corrected. And when they put this in, he and I are totally agreement that whoever came up with this design had absolutely no concept of river channel flow. I'm probably saying it not as nice as he would say it, but you don't go and put those pipes under there where they blow water through there into the side. It's like water blasting. And that's what's caused that erosion. So the idea is you're going to go in there and put in a concrete wall. It could be a reinforced earth wall with concrete riprap behind it, flowable riprap. And then you go in there and you basically pour concrete under the outfall there, so you're not going to have a problem. And literally, you're going to raise the floor of that creek up 8 feet by just pouring a bunch of flowable fill in there. And at the minimum.
You'd raise it right at the edge of the bridge, but
Well, not
the,
that.
where else would you put
Well,
it?
that's going to be his design, but all you have to do is just bring it up. The water can spill down. If it's spilling down
Right.
on concrete surface, then that's good because it dissipates energy.
Yeah, I'm just the top left picture.
Yeah.
You're talking about filling in that area.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the problems, but then you also made a very important is, you reach your equilibrium. So go back to your earlier picture. So in the last whatever years, the biggest movement has been where this erosion, where it was coming out under the roadway, and that's what's caused all of that problem. If you correct that problem, and now you're channelizing down, it would probably go deeper with time. That creek was there before Castroville was built. And it's eroding, just like below my house with the river. I can tell you, I lose property to the river. I lose property to the city's drainage that comes through my property. And it's just part of living on something that water flows through. But if the city takes the task of completely lining this whole channel, then we might as well realize that the city is going to take on additional responsibilities for all of these drainage channels that go through town, because they're all unlined drainage channels. Bob has one beside his house. I have one beside my house. Everybody with the river, all of our drainage goes into the river. So that's just something to be careful about. Yes, we got this pot of money, but do we need to spend it all in this whole thing? I'm a big advocate of, going back to where it comes back into the original channel, which is your option 2, and then going and putting rock bottom to it. Will additional erosion happen in the future? Yes. Is it going to cost any more to come back in the future and protect that than it is now? No. As it gets deeper, yeah, but you just basically throw riprap
Yeah,
on the
you don't
bottom
do
and
that.
armor the side.
Well, it just cost escalation. I mean,
Yeah.
it will cost more in the
It will
future.
cost
Everything
more
costs more in the
escalation,
future,
but as
but
far as,
yeah.
yeah, if you take out escalation, then it's, but again, part of it is setting the precedence, and that's what makes me very nervous. It's almost cheaper in reality to go and condemn that property and the city own that property. You don't care. On the other side, you realize that's the city's dump right there. That's the old dump. And you can go and look in that bank and you don't care if it continues to erode into city property because we ain't ever going to build anything on that property. It is old buried
It's
trash.
8 feet of trash,
Yeah.
at least.
But that's something you all need to decide when you're making this decision.
Well, and I want to be careful because I don't want to put words in the mayor's mouth, but that was my understanding of what one of his concerns was, is something you just mentioned, Phil, which is just this idea of adding additional liability to the city and setting a precedent on some level by going and getting these easements for what essentially was a drainage channel that's been there forever. Anyway, again, I don't want to elaborate too much on that because he's not here to shed further light on it. But he was here. I mean, y'all were here in the same meeting I was in, and that was my recollection of kind of what was shared was, and that's why we went back and met with Abe is to look at, well, could we confine the limits? And the bottom line is you didn't get easements. The city, I'm saying you again, the city didn't get easements when they did this bridge project. And we have built beyond our property line. You know, we have our right of way,
Yeah.
right? So,
The bridge is
so we are going to have to get an easement regardless for at least the bridge area.
And you see where the channel makes that hook up to the north. When Bruce was city manager, public works director, they actually went in there and built that themselves. The city put that in, and you can see how much it's changed in that time period, which is, I guess, 20 years. But it's always going to occur, and it also erodes below this point. It erodes all the way down to the river. So where do you stop it? But that's something you all, you have to take into account when you're doing this. I'm okay either way, but I think where you can see that line has hardly moved at all. And the bank stabilize? Yes, it will cave down, it will slope, but that part that's really been eaten in there, that's because that culvert was put in wrong, and that needs to be corrected. And so I think that needs to be redone. And don't put a 20-foot high wall there, come up 15 feet, and then slope it back to where that yellow line. In other words, you're not going to fill it all in. You just slope it back so you have a slope at the top, but you iron wall with concrete, of course, and not steel, but you iron wall the actual creek. So you're realigning it to that original line that you see there.
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
Any more discussion?
We're gonna have to
We'll do the
discuss.
motion first, and then we'll do discussion
Yeah, I understand that
afterwards.
works.
Motion to authorize staff to move forward with the Garcia Creek Drainage Project as presented, option 1. I added that because we already approved option 1.
Okay. Do I have a second? Can I make a second if I can?
Yes, you can, because you're not.
I will second it. That's my district. That's what I see. I see the erosion constantly.
All right, now you can call for it.
All right. Discussion.
Okay.
What I
think I heard Councilman King say is that, and I think we all agree, you've got to take care of the bridge and that area immediately around the bridge. And then there are other options beyond that, and it could go in different phases, and that there will continue to be erosion regardless along there. And so that would be option 2, I believe, correct? That we basically.
Oh, that was an option too that we looked at.
And that would be the concrete wall to keep the water from blowing into the dirt and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes. We do think that there's significant risk in terms of with the changing of that condition without fully stabilizing that you're pushing a problem somewhere else.
Okay, will option 2 stabilize everything around the bridge?
Just around the bridge, but it's going to possibly accelerate erosion on that northern bank downstream.
Okay, well, all right. Well, when Mr. Councilman King talked about putting a wall up there, I thought that was to keep the water coming through those pipes from hitting that bank and So you're saying that's not in option two?
Well, that's part of option two. So we would have essentially probably a concrete drop structure at the downstream side of those culverts. And so it would drop down 9 feet, and however it does it, if it's just one 9-foot drop or two smaller drops, that northern bank will need to be a wing wall or a MSE wall or some sort of stabilization measure to get that water. We got to turn that water essentially 45 degrees, getting it back in line. And then when it comes off the drop, it's going to have more energy. And so when it transitions from that concrete to that riprap, there's definitely concern because where we release it is in an area that's already very unstable, where it has vertical banks. So those are some of the concerns. And then because of in the picture of the head cutting, the steep slopes of the channel, over time it will migrate upstream. And so there's the risk of loss of that investment because of the down cutting that's going to occur in the channel.
You say it's going to migrate upstream of the bridge?
If we go back, or we go to the next photo, please. Yes. So the bottom left, that head cutting, it's going to continue to migrate upstream.
Is that on the north side?
It's on the, I guess I would call it the east side, or
Yeah,
Is it right after the culvert?
it's about
it's upstream.
300 feet downstream of the culvert.
Oh, wait,
Towards the Medina River?
It's between Athens Culvert and the bridge.
Go back.
Oh, I guess I don't address it. I'm wondering,
It's between these two. So about where those orange arrows are pointing, maybe a little bit to the right of those orange arrows.
okay, well, that is on the north side. Okay.
And see, my
Right.
again, it's, as far as phase two, does it go all the way down to where the two lines match up again? Phase two.
Well, it's just, I think, one phase. The whole limits are,
Well, I'm saying your option two, from the earlier option two.
well, we would still have rock riprap lining for the same limits.
At the bottom, but to realign those two, the yellow and the white line. Because you're gonna have to run that MSC wall or concrete wall down their ways to stop that erosion of that bank.
Right. Yeah. On the northern bank, we would have it, I think, for basically the entire limits. On call it the southern bank, we would have a wall for some length, and then to the point of where it's city-owned property, I think we can be a lot more flexible in that area.
Okay, so that would be option two to do that additional amount of work, right? It's not, I'm sorry, that would be option one to do that additional work that's not identified in option two.
Yes. Well, yeah, and option two doesn't include any, aside from the head wall and the drop there, no wall. So we're just putting some rock on the channel bottom. It's going to help a little bit, but really still not solve the problem.
If I were to go downstream 50 to 100 feet and deepen the channel about 5 feet at the bottom, maybe 4 or 5 feet wide and 5 feet deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So the water is not going to erode as much initially on the sides of it. It'll basically go down. What happens then?
Well, we still have instability on the banks, and so I think those are still at risk of eroding because we'd be going deeper. Those 15-foot bluffs would be getting deeper, and
Well, I could bevel them a bit, I suppose, but as Councilman King said, that creek's been there forever, and it's like the river and every other drainage thing. It's going to get bigger over time, and so I feel, we all feel that we've got to do something about the bridge in that particular area and take care of that wall. Beyond that, maybe it's to do the first part and see what happens.
I think from an engineering standpoint, the risk of instabilities that we may be creating downstream and the impact of property owners would be a significant risk, and I don't know if it's a risk that we'd be comfortable taking on.
Can I say it a different way? If you did it at a half-hearted, like the 400,000 part, right? You're risking that work is what you're saying. So
You're
gonna
risking the
waste
loss of the work, and
400,000.
you're risking also potential other bank failures downstream.
Right.
So if somebody's now losing a portion of their property, who's at fault for that?
Right, fair enough.
Per creek that's always been, but I guess the biggest property owner, other than where those two lines diverge, if you go down here, the water, and that, because water puts the greatest energy against the wall of that is flowing on. So see where it's that big shallow curve there, that's where it's putting more pressure on the south bank, and that's city property. And I don't care if the city property erodes 20 feet. It hadn't eroded more than just a couple feet in the last 10 years or 20 years. But what's really causing all the concern is where those two lines diverge. And kind of like Bob was saying, to go and spend all this money for something that may or may not be an issue, there's no structures that you're going to lose there.
I don't think that's what he's saying, though. He's saying it is an issue.
No, I'm saying that he and I disagree. If you lose some property, I lose property when the river runs. And so to go and spend all this money for something that the biggest property owner that's at risk is the city, because the city owns that
But
section
you're only
there.
leaving out half the question, because the 400,000, if you go the cheap way, is at risk too.
Oh, that the whole money that it is, that doesn't stop the risk. The risk continues on downstream.
But if I understand your statement, the 1.1 or option 1 helps us protect the investment in total versus the half-assed one at
Right.
400,000.
The plan would be to put grade bottom to arrest, the risk of erosion continuing from, let's say, all the way down from the Medina
Right.
to the river. So stopping short of doing a whole repair of the reach, we're proposing some, structural measures in the channel bottom to stabilize it.
So option 2 is a Band-Aid. I'm looking at
Yes.
this on the medical side. It's a Band-Aid, where option 1 is a surgery. That way it'll give it a longer lifespan and protect it better than option 2 would.
I would agree with that, and I would say as well that as far as the limits of the work that we're talking about, from the 30% design as we progress to the final, that's where we would, fine tune or surgically define exactly where those banks or those walls may go. What are the limits of them? What are the heights and all that
In your
information?
first plan, how far on that map does it go below? Does it stop there, or does it go down another 500 or 600 feet?
We're working from Geneva to Athens Street.
Just Geneva to Athens. So the creek below that is still eroding, still has erosion problems and everything, we're not touching that with this money.
No, we're not. And from I think the channel bottom perspective, it looks to be okay. It's got a lot of bank failure issues, but to the point
I
of
don't see
having
any difference in the erosion that's going on above than below the end of that. I mean, if you guys want to go, you should walk that and see. There's a lot of erosion happening all along it.
Mhm.
This is the whole, and the only thing, this is not a Band-Aid. This is more like we're fixing the first part permanently. It's not going to have to be rebuilt. The part that we're going to do, if you go with that option 2, and then you put concrete riprap in the bottom. I know where we're going to get a bunch of concrete riprap free is off of the TxDOT stuff. And because if you're going to dig up stuff underground, you're going to dig up curbs and everything above. You can put all those beat up curbs down there. We talked TxDOT about giving us that stuff. But anyway, but you guys go what you want to.
Well, I think I just want to clarify for council, just the policy discussion that I'm hearing really revolves around what is your responsibility as a city when it comes to these natural waterways. The city made improvements at one point in time as part of an overall drainage effort. That's where these culverts came from at Athens and at this bridge. And what I hear Councilman King saying is, look, this thing, okay, so you fix from here, point A to point B. First off, that might be a little bit arbitrary because you've got erosion all the way along this creek bed continuing down to below Dr. Bestnow. Or you can go ahead and fix this. I think that's the policy discussion is what is the limits of the project that you really want to tackle, and what's the city's responsibility when it comes to this type of erosion? Because it's not a flood concern. It's not what we've been emphasizing with the use of these funds is flood control. This is not a flood control issue. The reason this is on our map at all is because the city invested at some point 20 plus years ago in making improvements, and those improvements were failing. Mm-hmm. And so we identified, hey, these are some failures. If we spend $1 now, we'll save, $30 in the future for every dollar we spend, maintaining it rather than having to rebuild it, to the extent that there was some kind of justification for building them in the first place. Now, you could say that one the one that failed, that's completely collapsed in, I don't know whether it's worthwhile to rebuild or not at this stage. That I'm talking about the
the one
lower right-hand corner and above that, the two on the far right.
Right.
I don't know if we're going to rebuild that. That's at Athens. I think my understanding is that was done with Public Works at the time, but certainly the top left, I don't think anybody's disagreeing. We need to shore that up to protect that bridge and to protect that.
Oh, there's that water line there too.
Right.
No, and I think everybody's in agreement. That needs to be corrected.
But again, that's the policy. It's not really about a Band-Aid versus surgery. I think I agree. That's kind of a mischaracterization because it's really about the scope and limits of the project. Mm-hmm. Do you do anything in the channel or not? Is this necessary or not? And I want to clarify why staff brought this to you in the first place. It's really about preserving what was done. Mm-hmm. And at the time that we put this on, there was still an opportunity to save that Athens. You're rebuilding at this stage. You're not saving anything.
May I?
Mm-hmm.
Just first a quick note. I don't know about everyone else, but I don't feel like I have a super clear mental image of what the proposal actually is. Even if it was just drawing on that overhead diagram, or putting a wall here, a wall there, this will be a ramp. That would have been really helpful. And I'm sure it was in the packet from months ago whenever we first talked about this. But re-including it in this presentation would have been helpful.
I'll take the blame for that. We were trying to give the history, but not the full history.
Well, that's not history. That's what we're talking about tonight is what to do. Our bridge is in danger, and I think we should fix that. It seems clear to me that this pre-existing waterway has been disrupted by our bridge in a destructive way, and I think it is responsible for us to take ownership of that effect that the city has caused and fix it, which means arresting that eating away right past the bridge. But I'd be alarmed about doing changes as we continue down to the parts of the channel that are not changing as much, because water is funny, and the more you do, the more changes you see downstream of wherever you acted. And so I would prefer to see a more limited scope, limited up there by those two, by the bridge and by that area that's very actively eroding, and then making more limited interventions downstream later on, if at all.
You captured my words perfectly.
Well, I listened to you for a few minutes.
That's enough.
All right, you do have a motion and a second. You're the second, yep. Mayor Pro Tem, and that was to approve option one. Correct. With the scope from Athens, the bridge, at an estimated cost of about $1.2 million.
Correct. All right. Any further discussion?
Yes,
until I have a better understanding of this than what I do now, I'm basically going to have to say no. Maybe we even need an on-site visit.
Can I talk to you?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about this for a while. This is, in my opinion, going on long enough. And I want to ask you the same question one more time. If we go with the option two, the $400,000 to $600,000, I think is what it said, right?
Right.
We are risking that money, in your opinion, if we have a major rain event, without doing the other work, that money that we put into that area could also wash away.
Correct. I mean, that's our opinion. And
Wait, you're saying that for the $600,000 that we would spend to build the walls in the up part, in a major rain, those would collapse because we didn't go all
not
the way down.
not necessarily that part. The problem is that the northern bank is a vertical slope for the length of, I don't know, 300 feet or so. You can stabilize the head wall in the area around there, but you got to tie in at some point. And so if you don't tie in, we're going to create a scour hole or something around where that connects, and it's going to push a problem, I think, further down. So that's why we arrived at that option.
So you're talking about from an engineering standpoint, just making a turn and tie into the bank so you don't have this happening, so you don't have this waste of.
And because the bank is vertical, we're trying to find a place to safely tie that back in, and that was the challenge.
So if we did that, then it wouldn't be this waste of money that Councilman Martin just said. His concern is that we spend the $600,000 and then you get a flood event in there and then you lose all of that 600,000.
That's what I'm saying.
And you're saying, yes, that's the case. And I
Eventually.
agree with you.
Okay.
But so you're saying, but you still stick to your opinion that yes, if we only do down past the yellow there and put a wall in there and tie it in and do everything, that if you got a major, then that whole area is going to collapse because of that, is what you're saying.
It's going to continue to erode. I mean, I can't say if it's going to catastrophically collapse in one storm event.
Or you'd lose the $400,000 to $600,000. You're saying.
He said
Over time, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It depends on the storm, but I can't say if one storm will do that.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause we get the drainage off of 90 right there, and it flows. God, it flows.
So, second question then, if we could agree on the
Yeah, it comes
600,000
down.
It
option
comes
two
down,
tonight,
it goes right in there.
that doesn't
down.
prohibit us from coming back and tying that in with more funding in the second phase, if you will, of that project? Or do you have to do it all at once?
I mean, I really think it needs to be done all at once. And I guess at a minimum, you need to get the easements for the entire limits, because I think once you start turning dirt and you start moving
Gotcha.
things in the channel, things are going to evolve to the
Okay.
point that we were saying earlier.
And it
And
goes right out. Yeah.
it needs to be
Thank you.
city easement.
So
Thank
to clarify, the drainage here comes off of 90, comes right beside River Bluff into that drainage and goes right through that canal to get it down to Medina River. Just to clarify, that way everybody knows what kind of drainage is going through there.
It's about 200 acres. And I think if you look at,
It's not coming off of River Bluff only. It is coming off of 90 and going right into it.
and 200 acres is pretty substantial. And at that point, like
Yeah.
for other communities, anywhere from 100 acres to 200 acres, it becomes considered, a public drainage system. Now, whether there's easements or not, that's not what
Yeah.
I'm getting into, but
Yeah.
it's
But no,
serving.
That's
a
what all
larger
drains
area.
into that area.
What Sheena believes is that the water that falls on Highway 90 flows up to this area and through this creek.
Well, it does. So if you take that area near the post office and that like post office cemetery, that quarter flows towards this area. So there's there's one of the, just like we experience on the other side with Athens, there's a road, and I always forget which it is, but there's a road that becomes completely impassable during rain events. You can't, and the only reason you don't hear complaints from those folks, I think, is because their house is up, it's like 6 feet above the road level. And their driveway is on the far edge of their lot. So they're actually able, even when it's an impassable river right in front of their house, right before it gets to this creek, they're able to turn and get into their driveway.
Yep.
Usually. Now, sometimes it gets deep enough where even getting in their driveway becomes problematic. But
Yep. And I'll hear about it.
What are the under road culverts under Highway 90 by the post office, right up to?
I know there's some water that goes that direction for sure, but there's
Coming off the hill.
there's a lot that comes this way. Like
Comes off of old
there's a
Highway
river.
90, Houston.
One of those roads turns into a river. During
Motion made. Can we vote on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor? Option
This
one.
is option one, 1.2 million, the full limits of the project.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion does not carry.
I'd like to make a motion that we engage the engineer to move forward, because I'm not real sure what option 2 was. But I think we need to go down at least to where the 2 lines separate there. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And look at their armoring the sidewalls and then putting riprap below that, and don't come all the way up to the original surface again, but
Are we talking about this limit here?
yes.
So that, and I think that's kind of what you were saying is your, anyway, establishing a limit and looking at what it would take to get to this point. Is
Yes.
that correct?
And then
Not taking it all the way
Well-
down to Athens.
and then putting concrete riprap is a phase 1 of the
And-
project.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate I didn't include in the packet the
Because I'm not sure
plans, but-
our original phase number 2 option went down that far, but I think it needs to go down that far.
We have, the wall system essentially ends at. Right.
Yeah,
It ends somewhere a little bit to the right, but.
like here.
Yeah, that's where I think the walls, we have those tying in back to natural banks, and then we have some, then it drops down a bit. We have some rock riprap.
Because you still have steep banks below that, near vertical banks all below that.
That's where we get into to the point of it being city property, and so like we were a little more liberal in that area.
On both sides.
And actually,
Both
it's a good
sides.
delineating point. So this is a city property. The property line to the city property is right about here, and you're saying across the side, across from the edge of the city property, more or less, is where you were talking about making the limit, and that would be for your option 1. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if you were looking at a modified option 2, to your point, you're only talking about a distance of the delta between that point and basically the edge of the next property owner, more or less. As you can see, here's this other house, their property line's right here.
Mhm.
It's a little bit.
But you're also doing improvements to the bottom,
Right. And
like real
if
concrete.
you'd like, I can bring this up.
Whenever it's opportune, I'd like to make a statement.
So this is the plan profile.
I don't even know. I'm sorry.
No, they're going all the way
And
down here.
the profile, if you look to, I think there's a station of 1400. That's roughly where the city property is. That's where the limits of the walls.
Which is right about here. It's
So I guess what I would,
property.
my motion is to do, is have them look at, not all the way down there, not all the way at the end of the property thing, but come back up to where the line, right there. Because these numbers still float all over the place, and I'm so nervous about numbers that are given to us, like at the community center, and then all of a sudden they balloon up by 40% or 30% or whatever when you actually go to construction.
One-
And
I also want to be clear, the easement discussion, just to put that to rest, if that were the limits of the project, we'd still be looking at easements from all 4 owners. Because we've now touched all 4 properties.
on both sides. Well,
Right.
where are the 4 owners?
2 right there and the 2
So
on the other side.
these 2, this one, and this one.
So these properties here go all the way to the creek, Scott?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then the owners on the other side, those are short property lines. And where is the northwestern boundary of the city's property?
Northwestern, which is probably right about here. I mean, I can't tell you.
So-
I would guess that this is probably the property line here. So
Right, and then now we're along the creek, where does it go? Does the city cross over the creek, or is the city just?
I have no idea.
Okay,
It does. And
it crosses over the creek. So
No, it's shortening it. Short.
So if we don't put any improvements on the city side,
That's correct.
and we only look at, and that's what your phase one was, is stop, your improvement stopped at the city line.
Yes.
roughly.
Well, but you were continuing. I mean, you kept.
Well,
saying
we still have rock riprap on the bottom
That's
at
what I'm
that
saying.
point.
So the limits of the original project is Athens, which is here. So that's on the other side of city property. But when we're talking about the
wall.
extensive work, the wall would stop just short of the city's property line on what is the north side of the creek. And then riprap along the bottom, some pretty substantial improvements to the culvert, the drop, and some of the other things that you discussed. And then I think a repair of this culvert, is that right? As part of option one?
Repair which culvert?
The
Athens.
collapsed portion on Athens.
We had it included in there, but I mean, I would say that's optional.
I guess there's a lot of questions. And to go and commit money like this with all these questions, I guess I would like a better update, because it's hard in my mind to figure out why it's costing $1 million to go just a little bit further down for that short portion of wall. And
Well,
where did the second option end?
The 400 to 600 doesn't include walls, right? It only includes
There,
basically here.
it's only the drop, and
and
then
It included no walls.
Maybe
No,
the
well-
motion is to bring this back with more clear diagrams of what exactly each of these options constitutes.
Or if we make no action and just direct staff to bring it
Yeah.
back with a better explanation. Because the reason is that the mayor, he was public works director, and he's the one, and I remember him telling us, he says it hadn't changed that much since he was involved.
I think.
So I don't know.
The thing I think we all agree on, though, is that the minimum amount of repair you need to do, and this is what I heard you say, David, is the minimum amount of repair is we got to fix this scouring, and we've got to replace, we've got to fix this area, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Again, that takes you to here. The distance between here and here is, I don't know how many feet, but it's not, I mean, the standard width of a lot over there is how wide? 80?
We don't know how many feet it is, but the difference is $800,000,
Well, I think that's,
according to the
yeah.
cost estimates a few slides earlier.
Again, I don't think that's a fair comparison, because option two, which did not include this wall.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
only
No walls.
basically the river bottom
Correct.
and taking care of the foundation over here. That's it.
Correct.
Right. So you're adding this wall as option one, and that wall is actually going all the way down to here, is what he was saying. So the question is, if you feel like that limit is too far, there'll be some amount of savings to go from to minimum to remove this wall portion. I'm talking about that 20
Yes.
feet, 20 to 40 feet, I think, maybe 40 feet of wall. But the savings is not astronomical. I mean, it's 40 feet of wall, whatever section that is. So I personally believe, having listened to the discussion, you actually have, you've agreed that you need to do that. You need to do this at a minimum, and that wall needs to be fixed. Now, what I think, Phil, when we were out there on site, you weren't actually going this far. You were talking about basically just somewhere in here.
Well, and I still don't look at going all the way to the total height. You come up so high and then you slope it back to where you're going to hit that yellow line now. And so basically you're just sloping it to the top of the wall, so that you come from the original ground surface, you slope it down like this, and then you have your permanent wall. And that's very common, especially along waterways like this.
And in my mind,
We
that's
don't-
option one with tweaks.
Right. We're not disagreeing with that by any means, but we presented
Okay.
as a conceptual design.
Let me,
Okay,
that's,
we have beat this horse in the ground. We spent 30 minutes at least determining that we all don't know what we're talking about.
48 minutes.
Okay, we're all thinking different things because it's hard to follow exactly what's what. And as he said, we need something to come back to us. And it would be nice if council could do something with the screen, which we can't, because you can't put a laser on it. And so if it was on the wall, we could use a pointer, and at least we could clarify amongst ourselves exactly what we're talking about. Because we keep changing this and that and do and all that kind of stuff. And so this needs to come back with better visuals and better explanations as to what's what, and maybe a site visit, because right now I feel like we're just wasting our time.
No action.
I'd say no action. Well, Bob, anybody wants to go walking along there, Scott and I can go give you a guided tour.
Phil will go give you a guided tour.
And I'll show you where the grave marker is. And, well, I guess I would never actually finalize the motion. So, yeah.
And we can bring it back next meeting.
And no action, you can, and then
Yeah,
then based on that, also, come and tell us, because we forgot all that other stuff.
All right. So I think, anyway, I think what I heard some of the consensus around was a modified option 1. But I want to.
Or a modified option 2.
But option 2 doesn't include the
Sure.
wall.
Round one up.
Yeah.
So,
All
right.
Anyway, all right.
All right.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
not. We all agree
Thank
we're
you.
not going to go with 3.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Next one is discussion appropriate action authorizing staff to issue a request for qualifications for engineering and professional services for aviation related projects. And
And make a
it
motion.
would only be used when needed.
I want to clarify too, a couple of things. This does not have any fee associated that it's not like they're on retainer and we pay them. It's just, if there's a task order, they would then fulfill that task order at their stated rates. A couple of things. You don't actually have to go through an RFQ process because you have, first off, it is a professional services contract. You can go through that process, and that's what staff's recommending, just to be transparent. But the 2 folks that we've dealt with in aviation, one is Lochner. Lochner purchased K-Freeze. So because we already have K-Freeze and you already approved the Lochner at the last meeting, you approved their.
You meant KSA, didn't you?
No, I meant Lochner. Lochner is has an aviation wing of engineering. They do a lot of work for TxDOT across the state of Texas.
And who was that?
They're one of the approved engineers to do aviation. Lochner bought K-Freeze. So you have an aviation engineer already at your disposal that you already have an agreement with. And then you have KSA, who we've done work with in the past. You could, if you so chose, you could say, we just want to hire KSA as an aviation engineer. Or we could go through an RFQ and just see who else is out there. I'm just letting you know that that's not illegal to do. You could do that if you want.
KSA said they were purchased by someone else.
Pape Dawson. That's correct.
Oh,
Yeah. So KSA, everybody gets bought. So Pape Dawson bought KSA, but yeah.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to
Authorize staff
go for it.
to issue a request for qualifications, RFQ, for professional airport engineering services to support current and future Castroville municipal airport projects.
I second that.
All right. Any discussion?
Of course. Who wrote the RFQ?
A member of staff. Why?
That's
Okay, question, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just.
okay.
Do you have a particular question about it? Or? Michael Haley, I believe, but I don't know. That's who I got it from.
Okay. Historically, we have not had a engineering firm like you're talking about doing right here. As the project came along, we worked with TxDOT, scoped out what we wanted to do, and we proceeded with it. What I see here is we're adding an extra layer of expense that may not be necessary at all. And I think we've been very fortunate with the things we've done in the last number of years with having, in this case,
Freezing on.
a freezing on a retainer. Probably got way more than our money's worth out of that thing. But normally as these projects come along, we handle the engineering firm that's going to do the project at that time. I know it doesn't cost us anything to go out for the request for qualifications. And I did notice the wording does not necessarily mean we have to hire a firm. It could be anything, but I don't want us to get into a situation where we're paying someone to not produce. And there's a lot of stuff that we ought to be able to do in-house as we've done for the last 25 years.
Well, there's no risk of paying them not to produce. Again, there's no retainer. So Could be.
But I mean, we have department managers and people that are experts. In order to rely on their expertise to do things ourselves without hiring somebody else to do what we could frequently do for ourselves. And so I don't mind going after the RFQ, but I'm leery to put someone on retainer. I'm not retainer, but to say that you're our person from now on, I'd rather work that as the part that came along.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion?
You know, I'm real sensitive about this. Have we run this through the Airport Advisory Board? And what did they say about this?
I don't believe it's gone to AAB yet. No.
I guess to me, it's kind of like we're cutting. I think these questions would be good to get their advice and
Well,
get their opinion.
again, it didn't cost us anything to do an RFQ. So if you approve an RFQ, what we could do as part of your motion is that the responses, in other words, whoever we get responses from, go to the AAB for their advice as to which firm to recommend, if that's what you'd like to do.
I would go with that.
Okay.
So you would need to amend your motion.
I trust you.
So it authorize staff. So
Authorize staff, amend the motion to authorize staff to bring RFQs back to the Airport Advisory Board for consideration.
sure. I think that accomplishes what I was saying.
More discussion?
Okay.
Well, I first have to second
Yep.
the motion. Yes, I'll second that.
right.
Yeah, I would prefer that they come to us first. Us take a look at them, and then, depending on what we think about it, then refer it to the Airport Advisory Board. Okay, not send it to them initially.
Okay. All right. Would you be,
Do you want me to amend it?
that's up to you. Do you want to amend or
You want
not?
a minute?
Well, I'll amend.
Okay.
How do you say that, Bob?
Well, no, you don't. You just remove your.
I remove.
You amend your motion, remove the last amendment.
Just get rid of the Airport Advisory Board and the issue. We can always do that.
Are you supporting of that one, Phil?
Yes. Are you? Are you okay with that?
It was your recommendation.
Well, no, I don't think we're in a big rush on this. I think we need to send it to the Airport Advisory Board and have their input, and then we'll vote on it next time. That's what I want to do. But so I'm not going to amend my motion
Okay.
for his second one.
Okay, and all I'm saying is, just pass it as it is, and once we get it, we can send it to the Airport Advisory.
Why not we send it to the Airport Advisory Board first?
Okay, come on. We got to, come on. Come on.
I'm out.
Okay, your motion the first time was to approve.
Yes, the RFQ.
Okay.
And then I amended
You
it.
did it, and then he agreed to it, and then you amended it to send it to the airport.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
You agreed to that.
Okay. And that- Yes. we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you seconded sending it to the advisory board.
Yes.
Then
Then
I'm going to leave it
Bob
alone.
made his comment, and you said, I'll amend my motion to remove the amendment, but Phil
Phil
did
won't.
not agree with that. And so we're stuck with the
Option 2.
option 2, which is to go ahead and approve the RFQ, but that when we get those responses, they go to the AAB for their review and then come to council.
Yes.
Hold on.
Hey, is that right?
Laura's thinking. Hold on.
That's where that goes.
All right. We good? Okay. All right. So we're on option 2. All right. All those in favor? Aye. All those up against?
No.
Carries. Next.
No, and no.
That's 3 votes.
All right, next. All right, we are on to discussion and appropriate action to adopt an ordinance amending ordinance 2003-019 to have terms of Historic Landmark Commission members and alternates to follow the same terms as the other boards and commissions.
Can I make a motion?
Go for it.
I make a motion to amend the ordinance 2003-019 to change the terms of the HL membership to match with other advisory boards and commissions to end on June 30th instead of the current end of October for the HLC.
I second.
All right, discussion?
I think this one just makes sense.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, next. Discussion and appropriate action to prohibit a person from serving on more than one advisory board. Okay. Yeah, let's,
I think this.
or a motion, one of the two.
Well, why don't you ask for a
I
motion?
think
If nobody supports it, then we don't have to discuss it.
All right.
This is what we talked about.
Well, I think that,
Well-
wasn't there some discussion that happened after this item came about, Bob? Via email?
Well, I had a number of other things related to boards and commissions that we needed to consider changing our things. And the point came up also, if we're not careful, we might gut one board or the other of the experience and the corporate memory that it requires to do the job properly with good intentions of doing something else. And it could be that some of these things need to be phased in between now and next June and not immediately, okay? Because you need to really, and I had her give you a list of who serves on what on the P and Z, HLC, and the ZBA. Well, okay, you can't be on the ZBA on P and Z, that's for sure. But to make sure that whatever we do, we continue to have the expertise we need on HLC and P and Z, okay? And if you pass this the way that it is right now, that may not be the case. And so,
Let me get a question. Can I make a motion that's not as written down here on this agenda?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to prohibit a person from serving on the HLC and the P and Z at the same time.
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he probably has some first.
of
Okay.
course I do.
Yep.
Effective when?
Well,
Well,
Immediately.
there's people already, we do it now, but the people, in fact, you have to change the ordinance.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If this motion were to go through, just for clarification with council, what that actually is instructing staff to bring you back the necessary instrument that you would then adopt to make this the change, right? So it's really not making the change tonight. It's making the change once that ordinance is adopted.
And then only comes into play when those members come up for renewal.
Again, there'll be an effect. That language will be included in the.
Yes.
So it's whatever that language states.
Okay. Councilman Murs or?
Then him.
Well,
He wasn't done.
I have some other suggestions to do with guidance about the boards and commissions, which is not really, well, it could be. And one of those, no person who's an independent contractor or employed by a business that does business with the city may serve on boards and commissions.
That's another
Well,
thing.
It's membership.
Well, but right here, it's dealing
We
with,
can deal with this later. That's
Correct.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, my motion only related to
To-
serving on two boards.
David.
Okay. I had several questions, but I think they've all been addressed already, actually.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next. All right. Discussion and appropriate action on the purchase of a 2026 Tahoe with equipment for an amount not to exceed $90,000.
I'd like to make a motion.
Nope. For this, we have the chief. There's been some discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chief.
I just want you to know, there's been some discussion, and staff's going to request to modify the motion or what we're actually purchasing after that discussion took place, and I'm going to let Chief explain what that's all about.
Essentially, the agenda item submission form kind of gave you the historical aspect of it. It was brought to my attention on some issues with the Tahoes. We have had some of those same issues. I reached out to several different agencies, and they've had some problems, up to 10%. Some of them, almost 90% of their fleet. Usually it's the 2021 models. It appears that COVID's kind of a layover. My Tahoe's had zero problems, but I think there's significant concerns that I looked at talking to other individuals that run mechanic shops and everything else. So what I did is I reached back out and looked at options, and one of the options I did get, and they are on the buy board, is for a Ford Explorer, police package. I talked to them this afternoon, and if we go with the 2026, there is the option that's going to probably take 60 days. They do have a 2025 on the ground now that they would reserve for me. I told them I may have a decision tonight, may not have a decision tonight. My recommendation is based on some of the issues, the concerns with the Tahoes, that we maybe let a few more years pass between there before we actually reinvest within those Tahoes. Now, the grant that we did, Mr. Dixon asked me tonight with Stone Garden, that's specifically a Tahoe. Typically, when you say those specifics, guess what?
You're locked in.
So you're locked in. So
To that
that's
extent,
something
we're still
that,
going
that's
to
brought-
still follow up to make sure that
Yes,
we're
I
locked
will.
in, but
Yeah.
but we're probably locked in.
So what you're looking at is you're looking at about $51,000 for a Ford Explorer versus $62,000 for a Chevy Tahoe. So that $90,000 threshold should come down to about probably $80,000, give or take. So it goes from 90 to 80 with a fully functional vehicle. And what I'm doing is I'm taking out the video camera, the radar, and the radio because they're all relatively new, swapping those over. Those are a big expense in the equipment in these vehicles. So I gave several options in there. My preferred option is to purchase a new vehicle based on everything that's been presented in the agenda item submission.
So, I'm sorry, Mary, I can't pass this up. You sound like my wife when she explains finances to me.
My wife says the same thing.
Okay, you say normally it's $80,000 package, but because you're swapping over a lot of stuff, the cost of the vehicle would be $51,000 if we go with the Ford Explorer.
No. The base cost of the Ford Explorer is $51,000. The equipment's give or take another $25,000.
So it's
But we're switching some equipment over, but they're still going to need that $25,000 in there for the other equipment.
It's only about a $10,000.
Yeah, it's
Right,
only about
so-
a $10,000 savings.
So could the motion be so simple as that we authorize the city to purchase a new police unit
at your
at their discretion with the cost not to exceed $80,000?
Yes, it could be.
Is that-
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
All right.
I second.
All right. Discussion?
Yeah, I support that. Let me turn my mic on so everybody's happy. Yeah, I support that. You had another item on here as one of your options. Option one was the engine for $16,000, and the chief and I did go back and forth. And the Tahoes have a very checkered history of a number of years with significant engine issues, and so that's what he was looking into. But if we could be confident that 16,000 would put 309 back in service for 3 or more years, that might also be something apart from this that we would want to do. So,
Based on what I was told, that would not be a good recommendation.
okay.
And I almost forgot this to also, that unit that we're replacing, basically the idling hours on that unit.
Yeah.
Equate, it has 62,000 miles on it with the idling factored in, it's 367,000 miles.
Wow.
A big difference, and we've made some adjustments to the way they're idling, I can assure you.
Okay.
So,
All right. Any other
I just have
discussion?
a question,
Okay.
Sheena, real quick. On the idling, you mean when they're sitting and the motor's running, but not moving? And if you were moving while that motor's on, it would be 370,000 miles.
No, if it's sitting, these are idling hours. If you equate it, they have a formula, like 33 times the mileage or something that they do with another factor included in there. And I went and talked to the mechanic that gave us this quote and talked to her. And she said, yeah, that's what you need to look at, because that engine that has 62 on it actually has 367,000 miles on it when you factor in those idling.
The idling time.
And he
Wow.
kind of glossed over it. But
Thank you.
The chief, when we got here, we had the police department operated a different policy where, if the guys were in doing reports, and this is not about blaming our police officers. They were doing what they were told to do.
Right. No, I
Leave
understand.
the vehicles idle, but the chief has changed that policy to try to preserve our fleet. But really, I've experienced this in other cities. Some cities, that is the policy. Those cars are on all the time. If it's assigned to an officer and that officer is on duty, that car is on. If they're in, eating lunch, or that car is on. It's on all the time. Other police departments don't do it that way. And it depends on who you ask which one's better. But the fact of the matter is it definitely takes a toll on your fleet.
Right.
I go with his recommendation.
Okay.
I appreciate y'all's
All right.
support.
All right. So all in favor? Opposed? All right. Carried. Thank
One
you.
last comment on that item is just the source of funds will be your general fund reserves. Of course, if there's excess fund balance, just like we experience in the streets in this current year, then that's where that money will come from. But either way, it's reserves.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
You're going to tell me I have to listen to Jonah's presentation before I can make a motion, right?
Three.
Well, I'm going to make
So-
so I want to be respectful to the Parks Board that spent a lot of time on this, but I also wanted to let you all know that my recommendation, we'll listen to what Jonah has to say, but my recommendation is that you not take action on this tonight for two reasons. One, I think it's, unless you just feel like you reviewed it thoroughly and you're good with it, I think it's good to give yourself at least a little bit of time to review it. The other is, I'm a little bit concerned, Dan, about the drainage property specifically, the 134 Village Path that was mentioned during public comment that's been brought up. I recall when we purchased that property, Cynthia specifically told us that this is being purchased for a drainage easement, basically, and not to classify as a park, both in the purchase and then in subsequent references to the property. So I think we need to be very careful about how we refer to it. Does not mean that we can't, and we did validate this time, doesn't mean you can't make park-like improvements to that property. So I'm not saying that at all, but I think I need to consult with Dan about its inclusion in a parks master plan, even if it's just to recommend elements. I think that may need to be done separately and not mentioned in the plan.
I don't want us to get into a situation where we're basically having a park improvement plan.
All right. Well, let me open this up here because I haven't
ahead.
even read what we're
I
discussing yet.
apologize. Yes.
Discussion, possible action on Parks and Recreation Master Plan revisions. Okay.
Yes, good evening. So I have the park board president here, Adriana. I don't know if she wants to come up and say anything, but we'll just kind of backpedal a little bit. Back in 2022, the Parks Master Plan was, I would say, maybe not adopted, but approved as a roadmap or as a conceptual plan. So that way we, moving forward, if funds become available, we have an idea of what to do with those funds in the different properties that are designated as parks.
It was adopted. Adopted is the right term.
Okay, so yeah, I just I couldn't find that part in there. But anyway, it's basically a roadmap for us, and that's kind of what these updates are, is a roadmap for us moving down the road, assisting us in making sure that if grants become available, we have that updated master plan. So back to kind of what Scott was saying and knowing a little bit more about what that drainage easement is, we definitely don't have to call it a pocket park, but we can also call it something else. But just having this roadmap, again, available to us to know what we want to do. If funds become available or if a grant becomes available, we can say, hey, look, we have this idea or we have these plans in place that we could always look at doing at Lions Park or September Square, Houston Square, or in that drainage easement at Country Village. So that's really what we're here for. And back to what Scott said is if we want to kind of hold off on this, it's not a rush, but Parks Board has been working on this for a couple of months. So,
And then going on to the Lions Park. I mean, one of this is
Yes,
the motions,
yes,
both
yes.
of them, but now you've told us that one. What about Lions Park?
So Lions Park is just the implementation of having, or the plan to have, an all-inclusive playground, a reusable water source for irrigation, a swing set, a multi-purpose court, additional parking or designated parking, because right now, people just kind of pull into the grass. There's really no designated parking area. So making sure that we establish that parking area where people should or shouldn't park, additional restrooms if we were to put that in there. That's just, again, that's kind of one of those things of having that roadmap of where we want to go and then prioritizing those different projects in those different parks.
And your big number there was the grant, and then some little numbers are grants. Are there,
Correct.
These are grants you hope to get, or you have grants you have?
Correct, hope to get.
Okay.
Well, and keep in mind, all of that is subject to what the council decides, right? We're going to seek grants, but you all can decide, you know what, this is important enough, we're just going to go and do it. You've made parks improvements in the past that could have been covered under the grant if it were approved whenever it gets approved at some point in the future, but council chose to go ahead and make those investments. And I'm pointing to like things like the
I think the lights,
and
the lights at line at.
and we did that with a sort of grant. We had a private donation, but
No, the ones at Regional Park, I think were out of fund balance.
right.
The ones at Lions.
The big ones, the big like. But at the same time, we're about to come into a CIP discussion here, and that's really where that discussion ought to be.
And that's all I'm saying is, you all, I want to clarify, it's not, even if they say grants, it's up to council how you spend it. And that's pretty self-evident, I guess.
I personally have no problem with any of these, but I think, as you're saying, we probably need to get a little bit more information on the pocket park, to make sure we don't step in it there. And then on the other one, I think we need to have a discussion. I mean, right now, I'd say yes to that, except how do we want to get the money and where is it coming from? That probably needs to be discussed. So with all that in my thought, what would you recommend?
A couple of things. So when you adopt this plan, you aren't actually adopting the funding of it. You're just adopting it as a plan. And then as we work on CIP and focus on that, that's when you really apply funding to parks, streets, and everything else. And that comes down to your priorities. What I would recommend for tonight, if you wanted to take action, because I don't want to discourage that if that's something y'all are ready to do, my recommendation would be to simply exclude the village path improvements in any mention or reference to them at this.
I wanted them to go forward first, though.
What's that?
I wanted them to go forward first. I'm just joking.
Okay.
I like.
It's late and it's long.
Okay.
Appreciate your humor.
So do we have a motion?
I'll second.
No, do we have a motion?
Sorry.
But so we're. I guess the question, you're making a motion. You're asking for a motion on something that really, all of this could be talked about at the CIP, right? Because it's big bucks.
You certainly can. And again, this is a plan. You've already adopted a plan. This is a revision of that plan. Mm-hmm. A plan is just that. It is a plan. It is nothing definite, but it does give your parks board, it gives them confirmation that what they're doing, they're on the right track. And it gives your staff the ability to start to plan around these things as well.
I think among other things, it updates the list of completed projects.
Yep.
True.
It reprioritizes future projects, and it reflects the current state of what we actually think, because otherwise the plan's
correct
a number of years old.
But you are kind of ratifying those priorities.
Did you get a second?
No, we haven't gotten a motion yet.
Can I make a motion?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to approve an amendment to the Parks Master Plan regarding the development of updates to the Lions Sports Complex Master Plan.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay. Discussion?
As Mr. Dixon said, this is just a plan, like a city master plan, like a highway plan and everything else. There isn't any reason in the world you can't accept this as it's written. It just goes into the plan information. And I would even leave in the pocket park. What happened to the parkland from the heights of Castroville?
It's adjacent to that property.
Yes, that's parkland and that's adjacent. It's actually, hold on.
When they made that development, they had to have a parkland.
I know, hold on. They didn't
have open space.
No, they didn't.
They did I believe, I'll have to double check, but I think they did a payment in lieu of, and then they also, because that's wrapped up in a development agreement that I need to review, but they made park-like improvements to a drainage area.
And improved.
They do not have a park. They have park-like improvements to their drainage area, which is adjacent to our drainage area, which we acquired.
Okay, well, as I said earlier, when we were talking about phase 2 on the hill, we see the necessity to have parks, yet here's a development with 100 and something houses in it that doesn't have a park. But we're proposing using this little sliver to help take care of the park needs for a thing we should have gotten a park for in the first place.
Yeah, Bob, I don't disagree with you, but
Good.
I think I would rather Scott get with the attorneys, because for instance, instead of just looking at the 0.49 acres that the city acquired, should they look at both of them together? And is that what goes into the market? So I think a little bit more tweaking of this before we vote on, in my mind, before we vote on the first one.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I have discussion.
Okay.
There are items in this update other than just the Lions Park portions. So I would recommend, it'd be a heavy amendment. It would basically be replacing your motion. to instead say adopt the update as presented, accepting references to 134 Village Path.
Would you like to amend that?
Well, I guess
Because like I said, there's a list of like prioritization of projects. There's a list of projects that have been completed. Those aren't necessarily to do with the Lions Park.
He's looking at the whole supporting document that's with it.
I guess I was.
It's not just two things.
Yes.
Okay.
That's really a request to withdraw the motions.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's just a withdraw your motion.
Okay, and for clarification before I withdraw my motion, is for background, I was going off the background because that's what the motion's based on, is the background. And the background has item number 1, 134 Village Path, and it has a whole list of stuff. And it has item 2, Lions Sports Complex, and it has a whole list of stuff. But those are the only two. So is there anything in those 5 bullet points below 134 that has anything to do other than with 134 Village Path?
I'm ferociously flipping. I said I'm ferociously flipping.
Yeah, so I think
She can answer. It is just
Okay.
Okay.
But we also have revisions for the current Parks Master Plan to update some of the projects that have been completed. So if you want to move forward with just accepting or adopting the Lions Park aspect, but also the other revisions in the Park Master Plan, then that would update the master plan with Lions Park in there. And then not to include 134.
And I think that's what David's motion accomplished.
Yes.
Except my motion related to the agenda item,
You are
right?
correct.
Correct.
You're back. You did it right. That's the background. We probably
Is there
didn't highlight it.
anything, are there things then in this beyond Lions Park?
Yes.
And those are listed in the other thing?
No.
They're just
No,
not.
one-
We just didn't highlight those.
Sorry, yes, the apologies
as
on my part.
updates in the background. And
Yeah.
so for that, I apologize. It's not mentioned in the background. So you did it right when you were just looking at the background, but to
And
David's
updates not associated
David's
with
point, there's
134
additional
Village Path.
Update.
amendments, updates
Yes.
that were not highlighted in your background, in part because they're kind of trivial. They're just updating the master plan to reflect what has actually been accomplished. So we didn't really highlight that. But I know.
Yeah, the problem is I don't know what's in the other things then if I agree to
Bring
them
it
as
back.
far as a change of the master plan. I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I had
I
a
withdraw
question.
my
Is there
second.
any legal issue that we couldn't proceed with this particular parcel that's right now
We
a
recommend that
drainage?
you don't. That's what I'm
That,
saying.
that was not my question.
I know.
And that's what Scott and I were over here whispering, we don't need to go forward with this.
Okay, so it can be tabled.
But could we pursue
Oh,
putting a park with
No
the
action.
drainage?
Perhaps an improved
No action.
drainage area.
Not tonight.
No action.
Okay, I understand that.
No, sir, not tonight. I think we need to sit down and really look at
As far as 134 Village Path is concerned, everything else.
Okay. Okay.
everything else is good. Yes.
Okay.
yes.
All right. So, all right. So, scratching 134 Village Path Pocket Park off of it. So, what we are looking for is to approve amendments to the Lions Park Sports Complex Master Plan and updates to the current Parks Master Plan.
Correct.
All right.
Except,
Can I just try?
yes,
Can I just
right.
make a motion? I move to adopt the updated Parks Master Plan as presented, removing references to 134 Village Path.
I'll second.
All right.
Question. Are there changes to the parks plan that are not listed in the agenda summary?
Yes.
Like
Okay.
regional park.
To regional parks. So like some of the projects like installing a new restroom at Regional Park,
Complete.
the splash pad completed at Lions Park, a new restroom at Lions
And
Park.
why weren't they included in this?
Just oversight on my part. I think I was just hyper focused on those two.
You could describe them as clerical updates.
Yes.
So we're approving something we don't even know.
But yeah, in my mind is I'm approving something I haven't read. Because I only read this because I thought this was what the discussion was on.
And it's totally up to council. So if we want to just adopt the Lions Park part, we can, and I can come back after talking to Scott and the attorney about 134 Village Path, and also bring in the other updates to the master plan. Because ideally, I'd like to just do all the updates to the master plan all at once instead of having to pay 2 or 3 times to have it all up.
So those changes aren't, I mean, the plan's in your
whole thing's
packet,
here.
but those changes weren't highlighted in the plan?
No.
Those the changes to the master plan are not highlighted in it? They're in there, but they're not highlighted?
Correct.
Oh, yeah, that is an oversight.
Okay, so would you like
I
to
would
amend?
prefer Jonah's suggestion.
Bring the whole
What do
thing
you wanna
back?
do?
Yeah. And do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right,
no
bring it back. Do it all over.
I'm not withdrawing. Vote me down.
Is there a second?
I'd
There
already
is.
seconded.
He seconded.
Okay.
it,
It's
right?
whether or not you withdraw, sir.
What?
Whether or not you withdraw your second.
I can withdraw?
Yes.
Oh, I withdraw.
Okay.
Now you have to get a second.
All right, is there a second?
Oh, motion fails for
Motion
a
fails.
second.
For lack of a second. Second.
All right,
No action.
so no action, bring it back. All right, next.
Last one.
We're almost there. All right. Discussion, possible action on creating an ordinance establishing the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee as required by Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code, providing for membership, duties, and procedures.
And I want to clarify, all you're doing is establishing the board. You're not
Filling.
seating it. You're not filling it. That would take place at a later date.
Okay?
Good night.
Thank
Good night,
you.
Jonah.
Thank you, Jonah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonah.
And can I, real quick, while Adriana's here, I think I mentioned it before, but she bravely and selflessly represented us at BMA Canal, and we
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
So,
As
and
is
for everything else
referenced
you
in
do,
agenda
of course,
item
but-
13.
Did it go okay?
I saw that.
Who's more confusing, them or us?
Oh,
You don't have to
definitely,
answer that.
definitely us.
Okay, come on. Come on.
We've read the item. So
We read the item.
now you can look for a motion.
Can someone explain, we had a discussion on this earlier, didn't we, where we were thinking about creating this board?
Yeah.
Can someone explain, because some of these duties sound like we already have them in some existing boards.
Well, we got a committee for the impact fee committee.
Yes.
For years. Sorry, we had this part, well, I'm muting myself, sorry. We had this committee for years, because I was eating chips. I was eating.
He's talking.
That seems unfair.
I'm so sorry. Anyway, we had this committee that was set up, and they would come meet periodically to look at impact fees if there was a suggestion of
Right.
increasing them. It was the Planning and Zoning Board and two outsides. One represented the real estate, which was Tim Hart.
Tim Hart.
And then there's another gentleman, and I'm sorry, I can't recall his name. He was the ETJ representative. He lived out here past River Bluff. And so that was the board. Well, the state has changed that in this last legislature and said planning and zoning members cannot be the full board or the board. And so now I'm assuming we have to have this ordinance
Yes.
instead.
This basically enacts and says that what you're gonna do is the capital advisory committee and that they do the impact fees. So this is all this is doing. Gotta have a minimum of 5. And then basically somebody, we gotta have one out ETJ if you're gonna do impact fees out there. The rest of them have to be here within the city limits.
But they also have to have certain criteria.
Yes,
they
yeah,
have to be developers or,
Engineers,
yeah,
real estate folks.
they can't be, and they can't be, what, council members? They
No,
can't be,
no.
so there is a different criteria they've set up. My question would be if this is a committee or a board, because that makes a difference on posting and publishing
No,
agendas
this
and that
is
type of
gonna
thing.
Be a committee, but at the same time though, I've always leaned on the side of the Texas Open Meetings Act that they probably need to be posted for sure.
We did because of the planning and
Just to
zoning
be
board because of
safe.
that, but,
Safe, sorry.
Mhm.
I know we did that in Odessa. We
Mm.
posted with it.
okay.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize city staff to create an ordinance establishing a capital improvements advisory committee as required by Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code, providing for membership duties and procedures.
And
And
authorizing.
authorizing the mayor.
reading the one that was on the thing.
Yeah,
Oh, and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
Well,
Yeah, the ordinance is already in.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you reading off the agenda summary form or the agenda?
I was reading right
The
here.
agenda.
Take the, there's,
11J.
we have an ordinance.
Creating the capital advisory committee.
I mean, I thought I heard
Yeah, I heard
King
him
say,
say
have them go create.
create.
an
Can I reread
Well, it
my
did.
motion, please? I'll
Yes.
reread my.
You haven't had a second, so you can.
Yeah, I
yeah, oh,
second.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
he seconded.
sorry.
I withdraw my second.
All right.
Okay, I make a motion to approve ordinance number blank, 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 establishing the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee as required by Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code, providing for membership duties and procedures and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Seconded.
All right. Any discussion?
Okay, time out.
You read this.
I know, but then he seconded instead of
Yes,
Mr.
that's
Marshall.
correct.
Yes, I withdrew mine.
Okay, sorry.
So we have a second. We have the issue on, the agenda items on the floor. And Mr. Lee has a question.
You know, it would be a lot easier if we discussed this before we made motions, because continually we go back and amend our motions after we discuss it after the motion. Anyway,
Go
you
back
said
to Robert's
something.
rules.
What's that?
Doesn't matter, it's my rules.
I know you can do it the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Come on.
okay, you said that other than the person in the ETJ, the rest of them had to be citizens of the city.
Yes. They have to be lawful, voters qualified voters within the city of Castroville.
Okay, I must have missed that in here. Can any current member of the P and Z be on there?
Well, yes.
P and Z can't be all of it, but you could have a member of P and Z as board member.
You could.
It depends on what the law says.
Yes.
It's
Well,
what the
because
law
you have some
says.
P and Z members that are
Yes.
qualified for this, and they wouldn't be
have to
looked
be
at as
qualified.
that.
Yeah, they still have to meet the other qualifications.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have, like
But-
a realtor or a developer, or, you know.
And thankfully, the only board that, and you haven't adopted this yet anyway, where they can't serve on more than one is HLC and P&Z.
I don't know that this applies to that though.
I don't know either because we haven't done that yet, but we'll see when we get there.
We'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Yes.
A question for you.
Not someone else
We'll
says
beat
that.
it to death first.
Yes, we
Do you
will.
know the definition of a developer?
I could probably get you one, email you one.
Well, the reason is that there's quite a few people, well, I'm not going to say that, there's a number of people in Castroville,
Right?
but developers, if you say you have to develop 1,000-acre site, no. If you say that you can develop 2 properties, yes.
Well,
So,
that would be a developer.
yeah, so I guess I need to know what the definition of a developer is.
I
So,
can
because
find
we
it.
need to start going and finding
Yeah.
people to sit on this thing.
Let me look and let's see what Texas law says. I'll look under 395 and I'll get you an answer.
I'll
Hey,
tell you,
you
if they
send it
have
to
to be-
Scott, he'll,
If they have to be voting members of the city of Castroville, we're going to be hard pressed to find.
depending on what the definition of a developer is.
Yeah. But if I remember correctly, off the top of my head, it's very, very open, very, very wide.
What? Yeah.
So if you can, if it's
I mean-
fact, for instance, the
Yeah.
developer is defined as a person who builds King Castle on Lisbon Street,
Right.
then that may be one person.
If I remember correctly.
If he's not on
it's
city
very
council.
open, but let me double check.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion?
I guess just to clarify, is this is the ordinance that we agreed a month or so ago that we were going to, this is the same board,
Yes.
not a
Yes.
second board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
It
just
just
wanted
has
to
a
clarify
longer
The
that.
impact, we talked about impact fees. This uses a slightly different term, but this is.
This is the same
This is the group.
entity.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other third discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes. All right. So, discussion future agenda item. Oh.
Are you doing his report? No.
That's
Well,
after
that's
future
after
agenda.
future
items.
agenda items.
Why is,
If I go,
Oh, sorry.
can
I
you,
moved that up.
could we push that down below?
yeah. All right, Scott, what you got?
It doesn't matter. I mean, we can do it in whatever order you want.
Scott, what you got?
2 things that I want to call your attention to in my report, and then of course there's staff reports behind them. The community center regional park is not progressing right now. If you didn't notice that in the report, the government shutdown has impacted us. We did, and I want to praise Jonah. He did his absolute best because there's a lot of forms we have to fill out once we get bills due from the contractors. All that got filled out and turned in within a matter of about 10 days from the time we received it. I want to say it was maybe even less than that, which was in August timeframe. We got that in front of the USDA. The shutdown didn't take place until end of September, October 1st. But be that as it may, they have their own chain. It starts at the regional office, goes up to national, and then it gets approved and comes back down. And unfortunately, those payments did not get approved before the shutdown. And now the person that we, our only real contact is furloughed. So we haven't been able to make any progress. My concern, we have the funds to pay this. It's about $250,000 roughly that we owe the contractors, and we can put them back to work. My concern is that the USDA may use some red tape bureaucratic reason to not pay us for those funds. Now, granted, we already know that the monies that we're going to get from USDA are not going to be sufficient to pay for the entire project anyway. We had to put in our portion, which was $460,000. We did that. We paid it. We had to use that first. We've done that. We've met that obligation. Now we can use the 1.2, but the total project was some amount above that. So you could say that maybe that it won't matter because we're going to have to end up spending our own money anyway by the end of the project once we've exhausted all the USDA funds. But I'm just throwing that out there to you all to seek some direction for this item. We are noticed to get some direction. If you wanted us to pay those bills and put them back to work, we could certainly do that. But I think it comes with some amount of risk. I just can't quantify it for you.
Is this an action item that we can?
It is. The way it's worded, you can take actions on the items discussed in the report.
Okay.
Okay.
And I will. We have to finish the project.
Yeah.
We have to put some of our own money into the project. We have some money that we may or may not get reimbursed for that we could pay right now. If we didn't get reimbursed for it, we'd have to pay it anyway.
Maybe. It depends. We're still trying to get within a budget, right, on the project, but I can't quantify how much of that we would have spent anyway. That's the issue.
Okay,
well, the entire amount would be some amount less than that.
Okay, regardless, we need to finish the project.
And it will get finished. It's about whether or not it gets delayed any further and how much longer it's delayed.
We're going to have to put in another, $400,000 of our own money anyway?
Potentially.
Okay, why don't we proceed?
I think it sounds to me like if we put $250,000 in right now, there's some concern that the USDA could just say, oh, they elected to own that $250,000, so we're going to reduce the total amount of reimbursement by $250,000 now.
Potentially.
Why would they even know that?
Potentially.
Okay.
Because we already submitted.
It took them like a year to
That's already happened in the
start
past.
giving us the money.
Yeah, we ran into all kinds of issues on the airport project.
What happened at the airport?
They don't pay us at all to reimburse us.
You know,
I understand.
I got to believe this thing's going to correct itself in the next 6 months. In the next month.
Yeah.
And once it's corrected itself, people go back to work again. So I think it's not canceling the project. We're delaying it maybe for up to a month. But I think it's too big a risk that they would come back and say, yeah, it's because the Department of Agriculture does have a recent example of track record for that happening. So I think the prudent thing to do is just let it work out once the slowdown is over.
Okay.
Why don't we relook at December?
I'm going to keep you posted about this at every meeting we have. So in November, it'll be on the agenda as well. If
this is still the problem in December, we're in a lot of hurt.
Right. Because it was supposed to have been done in January.
Is
this project.
there any risk?
The whole federal government.
I get it.
Can I ask a question?
Hang on, I have one more.
Yeah.
Is there any risk of the contractors moving on to a different project in the interim?
They haven't stated that to us.
Just because eventually they have to pay their bills too.
There's always, that's awesome. There's always, yes, that could happen, right? They could decide to demobilize at some point if it goes on long enough. Yeah.
But their contract probably has the fact that the measure, what's the term for it? But anyway, if
Force
the
majeure.
government if the government caused this, then that's not a reason for them to back out. They have to.
I hope
I mean,
so.
typical, that's in the language of the contract,
Okay.
you know, and because the city, it's not
Right.
not us, it's the government that's doing this.
Right.
And,
It's not the government, it's the government.
do what?
I said,
What's
it's not
our
the government,
total
it's the government.
estimated cost out of our pocket for this project?
It
With what we
was
spent and where we're going.
right. We approved a contract of 1.9. You got 1.2. That's a $700,000 delta, and we spent 460 of that.
Okay.
Now, some of that we've already managed to reduce. That was part of the low voltage
Right.
stuff that we did. We carved out $60,000 or $70,000, so we reduced some of that, and we're still working to try and find other ways to reduce that.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying there could be some delta, right, if we were to pay it. But I think maybe the prudent action is to wait till November 19th and see if it's still ongoing or, yeah.
Is the building dried in?
It is. It's dried in, right?
It's dried in.
Yeah.
It looks like it has particle board on the roof.
That's called dried in.
Okay, so it's not going to deteriorate if it gets too much rain?
That green board?
Water.
I think that green is the waterproof membrane anyway.
Yeah, there. It does not have the metal roof on it, but it's dried in. It does not rain inside it when rain comes.
Why don't we try this building?
You could do the same thing.
Okay.
We could do like the Alamo and build a big dome.
Next
Okay.
question.
All right.
Okay, next.
Other thing. I could provide an update on Oasis River. There's a whole slide deck in there that I would encourage you to look at if you haven't. The water rights purchase is moving forward. We are still in a major drought, but we're okay as far as our number of water rights pumped and forecasting for the end of the year. We should still be okay at current levels as long as nothing changes. Something I would recommend that you consider, it's not mentioned in my report, is so it's not really for discussion, but is that you consider, I think I mentioned this once before, we need to look at a policy that requires people to bring, like commercial development, to bring water rights if they have a certain, if they anticipate a certain level of consumption. So the car wash is the main issue, right? They're one of our largest users, and they didn't bring any water rights, right? I have talked to the owners about this concept of mine. I didn't want them to be surprised, and they didn't say that, oh, that's a great, they weren't in love with it, but they said, hey, this is something that we've seen in other places. We would be prepared if that were necessary. We own land and water rights, and we'd be able to do that. So that's just something to be considerate of. We probably need to look at
The new car wash, Scott, is what you're talking about. This one, the brand new one that they're building.
Yes.
Are they recycling that water?
Yes, they are, but they're recycling the other one too. And when we did that comparison, they were they used 10 times more water than just the traditional car wash.
Wow.
And it really has to do with how many people use their car wash. I mean, they use a lot.
True.
They're very successful. But yeah, it's an issue when you look at the water rights they're using. And I mean, really, that's a subsidy that the rest of the city pays for to a certain extent. Okay. Tourism and economic development. I just I put that in my report just to highlight. I hope this is a position that once we get a chance to have this workshop that we'll be able to refill, but there are going to be some balls that are going to get dropped in the meantime. And I'm doing my best to partner with the chamber and with Arnie and others to try and take care of folks. But there's gaps we're just not going to be able to fill because we need a warm body to do those things. The workshop itself, I am working with the mayor to try and I've asked him to select a facilitator and give me a name. And so we are going to work on doing that. And then once we get the facilitator name, then I can reach out and find out what the dates are. But realistically, with the holidays, et cetera, I wouldn't expect to be able to hold one before January, February. So just be aware of that. And then including my report, it wasn't mentioned in the report, but I just want to show you the pictures of upstairs. Please take a minute to look at those. There's been an impressive amount of work done by Steve.
Wow.
Here it is.
Oh, yeah.
What the heck?
So there's a before and after. And you can see the before, if it actually does, maybe it'll do it, maybe it won't.
Dance venue.
Who did this?
All right, there we go.
Our maintenance person.
This is, so
Wow.
I think I told you I kind of created a facilities position mid-budget last year.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and that was just out of sheer necessity. We needed somebody to do something about our facilities, and we really didn't have anybody to do it. So Steve was available. He was working part-time in our parks, and I put him to work as a facilities guy, going around and taking care of the honeydews. And one of these has been upstairs. This is just the before. This is the after. The other thing I want to call attention to is the files themselves. If you aren't aware of how much paper we produce on an annual basis, it is a considerable sum. I am trying to encourage paperless processes where possible, but that also requires an investment. That's something I think the city really needs to think about, because these become a long-term issue and liability for the city to a certain extent to have to maintain all this. But that just gives you an idea. These are the destruction documents for essentially about a year and a half. That's about 18 months.
No,
Or is it 2 years?
It's 2 to 3.
So that's 2 to 3 years worth of destruction documents piled up. I think these are also destruction.
Those are over in that same spot.
Yeah.
Those were moved over. The lady, we're having this done now, which he did excellent. I'm so proud of him. I said the before is where people just walk up there and throw stuff in there.
Yeah.
Which highly upsets me when I walk up.
Yeah.
And so he did
I'm
very,
putting a
very
stop
well.
to that too.
And so that's what she's going through right now. She went through 80 boxes today. She'll be back tomorrow. And then part of it, the destruction, they turn around and they count the boxes. They will give us a list of what's in there.
Now, I was looking at the dates on these. I didn't see anything
Yes.
that was 3 years old.
It's anywhere from 23 up to 25.
Yeah.
And depends on what it is.
Yeah.
But some of it, then we're going to redo the cage in there and get the permanent records, which is from the PD mainly. Personnel, planning and zoning, any of those permits. But we're going to get them rearranged, and there'll be a whole lot less because I do this every 2 years.
Yep.
I couldn't get it last year at the end, and so that's why we're doing it in this year. So
So that, again, I just wanted you to be like, for a lot of people, you just don't know what you don't know. And this is a visual. I mean, this gives you a really good idea of exactly how much paper we produce and we have to maintain. And this all goes back to open records and what legally we have to maintain. So all this we have to maintain. And that's what it looks like. And that's what basically 2 years worth of that looks like. And it gets stored somewhere. And that's something else we have to think about is where do we store these files? How do we protect them? How do we take care of them? And if we were to remodel City Hall, and I hope that's a when, not an if, we need to think about file storage as part of that because that's definitely not in the plan. My thought is we do this off. So other cities I've worked with, we have an off-site location where we store all our documents.
I had to get an open records request today from 2003 out of a police report, and that box can be destroyed in 2045.
Yeah.
So.
And so anyway, and some of that, like I said, I think there's an opportunity there to scan and make permanent. If you have permanent records, create digital files of those permanent records, and then determine which one of those that you actually want to maintain a hard copy for historical reasons because they're something that you want to hold on to. But there's some of those that you can just get rid of because you don't need the paper copy.
Yeah, it's just depending on what the file master plan for the law says.
But again, all of that comes with a cost when you create digital scans. The last thing I want to mention from our report goes back to the Steinbach House and drainage and just underscoring Councilman King's involvement with staff, assisting with various things like the splash pad, like the wastewater treatment plant ponds. We're going to talk about this more in executive session on the 19th, get some direction from the attorney about what that needs to look like. The city has a history of doing pro bono work. Obviously, there's been considerable work done by Paul Carey in his role as a surveyor. We never had an agreement for that. And I'm not saying we don't need one, but I just want to underscore that if this council goes that route, just understand that there's a lot that gets done behind the scenes that you council people help me with. And that would need to be done by somebody. And likely be paying that person, like one of our engineers, to do something very similar. I thought I included it in here. In fact, I know I did. I just have to find it.
What's that?
But it was just a drawing that Councilman King did of the
Steinbach?
Steinbach, yeah. I think it's, there it is. It was before this report, sorry. So we have some significant, we just talked about, the drainage and issues that we're having on Garcia Creek. There's a considerable flow that comes right down that road and hits between Larry Arnold's house and the Steinbach. And we really need to do something about that. And these are some recommendations. It's in your packet. You look at it, but ultimately, I'm not going to do anything with this until the 19th. And then once y'all give me direction and Councilman King and the rest of council who's operating in a professional capacity, how y'all want to operate, then I'll pick this up again based on that direction. Yes.
Yes, sir. I believe according to our ordinances, we're required to have a barrier between residential and facility there.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, check it out. This came up over and over and over, whether we want.
You have to have a fence?
Yep.
Between what?
Commercial and residential.
This isn't commercial.
Well, I understand
This
that.
is, yeah.
I understand that. And,
We don't have fences around our parks.
The issue had been raised before about disruption to the area. We discussed whether to put a fence up, whether to put up shrubbery and all the rest of that kind of stuff, based upon the requirement of the ordinance.
It's zoned
But-
residential.
Well, Steinbach is a park.
I understand.
This
It is based on the
Just talking about
zoning, not
the
the
nature of what it
use.
is.
Well, it's a berm, if we did a berm, but anyway, for future discussion, y'all gonna give me direction. I'm not gonna do anything with this. I want to make that clear until after the 19th.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. So discussion future agenda items. No, we've got other stuff on there already to bring back and everything from today's meeting.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the 19th, we've got several items. There's going to be an executive session. There's going to be
It'll be 5 o'clock.
presentation from the desalination folks that are mentioned in. Actually, I don't think I mentioned. No. It's actually 7 Cs.
Okay.
It's a desal opportunity or option that we're looking at. I think that'll be in executive session as well. Anyway, there's a couple different items.
Okay.
I'll start.
Good.
All right.
Work well.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
On all this.
Have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Second?
Oh, guys.
You don't have to ask for that. Just tell me a time.
All right. We're adjourned at 8:52.
Thank y'all.
It's 8:52.
Thank you
I will
kindly.
be.
Mayor Bruce, if you're listening.